flower girl stares at the plant and asks if it's really magic grass, while Harris just smirks, finally getting hit with the realization that the power is. Tucked behind his plant mastery, there's only one real perk. Usually he can just appraise basic stuff like this. Harris can't stop thinking about how he's burned his whole life trying to turn that monofilled grass into real medicine. Harris knows that with his research and his crew by his side, they can actually save the world. Then boom, the dream shatters. Right back at the Renard Sanctuary in the royal capital, Harris jerks awake, staring around like, what is happening? Totally lost. His boss is ripping into him, shouting that he's been fired 1,000 times over. Meanwhile, Harris just stands there, totally stunned and clueless. He's just trying to absorb the shock. Then the boss snaps that their job is all about healing magic, not playing around with herb research, and he's finally had it with the whole thing. Harris lunges for a comeback, insisting this research was his father's dream and could save the whole kingdom, because healers are trapped in the capital, so what's the but even for? But the boss slams him down on the spot, tells Harris to shut up, laughing at the whole idea of helping the poor. Dolence Renard just locks eyes with Harris, then demands to know if he really needs to spell out why Harris is getting kicked out for acting like. He acts like it's the most obvious thing in the world, spilling that it's all about the money, and openly admitting he hated how the guy before him ran things because those old methods were way too soft. Dolence flashes this unsettling grin as he boasts that rich patients have only one choice when they need healing magic. He starts unraveling, insisting that if Harris really makes medicine everyone can use, their easy money is about to run straight out of gas. Harris stands there, trembling, realizing this whole place is a total wreck, and if he keeps staying here, he'll never finish his real work, so he finally snaps and gives in, slides his ID card onto the desk, looks Dolence in the eyes, and announces he's quitting the sanctuary for good, but the boss isn't finished tormenting Harris. He strikes a match, lights up a cigar, and tells Harris to get out before his research lab goes up in flames. Harris can't believe his ears. He blurts out, "Are you serious?" Then instantly dashes out the door to make sure his stuff is still there. By the time he finally reaches it, the research shack is already engulfed in flames. He just freezes in place, staring as every ounce of his hard work turns to ash. As Harris stood there staring into the roaring fire, someone strolled up and, like it was nothing, snapped that he was late, then walked off, leaving Harris frozen with absolutely nothing left. The arsonists just stand there, cackling like it's pure joy, bragging that the shack burning is worth it for their stolen profits. Then one of them sneers at Harris and calls the flames a parting gift from the director, making it painfully clear that they're soaking up every second of this, but Harris is starting to lose it, cursing under his breath as the goons yell that he needs to remember his place, and he's not about to just stand there, not when While the guys shout that Harris is officially banned from the royal capital, he whips around, bolts straight into the flames, heat blasting his face right as everything's coming apart at the seams, wood is snapping and crashing all around him, and Harris slaps his hands over his face just to push through the choking smoke, because he can't stop, not now. Not when he realizes his dad's whole life, everything he built, is trapped in the middle of this disaster. He flashes back to those days in the lab with his father, and the idea of losing that legacy hits him like a punch hard. Then he sees a notebook bursts into flames, and he lunges for it, his mind racing with how they were finally about to make the research actually help people, until he suddenly spots something else. Something even more important is hiding in the corner. He surges deeper into the blazing room, and even though the flames are exploding through the room, and he tells himself, I have to grab that one specific item before this place collapses. He lunges for the shelf and plunges his hand in. He snatches a tiny wooden box inside. A strange glowing seed sits there, flawless and untouched. He exhales in relief, then the roof groans and starts to crumble, and Chris grips the box like it's his lifeline and bolts for the exit, because if he doesn't save this thing, he might be crushed under the whole building's collapse. Harris shields his eyes from the blazing heat, clutches that book like it's life itself. Then the fire surges closer, his lungs burn, and he can barely breathe, and then he slams into a run for the exit, wondering if that's as far as he can go. Then he flicks his eyes back one last time and sees everyone else is already done. So the whole lab collapses in one sickening moment, smashing down into burning wreckage, with smoke roaring up as everything comes to an end. Harris stands frozen in front of the wreckage, staring in disbelief as everything he fought for burns down to ashes. With hollow eyes, he stares at the ruins, replaying every year of research and all the memories he shared with his teacher, and then his pride, his dreams, every last spark of hope, just ripped away. Then he whirls around and turns his back on the mess, and he turns his back on the capital and starts walking, crushed by the thought that there's no spot left for him in this world. A searing pain rips through his arm, and he jerks back with a sharp wince. The burns from the fire have finally started to sting, making. And that's when it hits him. He's already slipped out of the royal capital without even realizing it. He can't remember when he crossed the line, not even a little. But that sharp pain in his arm is doing him a favor, cutting through the fog in his head. He snaps his gaze to the plants around him, desperate to grab the right magic herbs and heal the wound before it spirals out of control. Harris taps into his special eyes and sweeps across the plants, and there it is, magic coursing through everything. Then he spots vitality grass to patch himself up, and blue plum grass brimming with water mana, right on the dot, just what he needs. So he can make it to work because for as long as he can remember, he's had this plant master power that lets him see the hidden energy inside every leaf, and when he snatches those two herbs, he knows with them he can pull off a quick fix, so he chops up the vitality grass fast, even though he knows these magic plants are just normal weeds unless you know how to use them. He tiptoes to the next step, tucking the chopped bits inside a bright blue dew leaf, because this exact method is the only way to turn raw plants into something actually useful. Once it's finally ready, he slams the wrap onto his burned arm and shoves his own magic into it. Then the mixture ignites into real magic medicine, right there against his skin, making. And that pulled him right back to the reason he started it all. He wanted his tech cheap and easy to find so even the poorest families could get help. But he just stands there by himself, staring into the void, thinking about all the other people out there who are just like he used to be, folks with zero chance of paying for a real healer the moment they get sick or hurt. A sharp little laugh bursts out of him when he realizes his arm is totally fine already. The potion worked exactly like Master Gustav taught him, and with the whole new world of medicine calling his name, he vows to build it. He clenched his fist until his knuckles went bone-white, so close to pulling it off. It felt like his dream was right there in his grip, before it all slipped away. Everything collapses. He ends up out in the middle of nowhere, finally staring down the truth that his life in the capital is over, and he'll never get to run his research there again. Harris drops to the ground, studies his map, and realizes he can't just vanish. He has to check on the patients he's been treating, the ones who couldn't make the trip to the capital, so he refuses to leave them hanging. When their lives are on the line, he can't back out. He shoots a plan. First, he'll head straight to Rosara's place. It's a long walk. But eventually, he finally reaches the Intruse, a harsh outpost perched on the kingdom's edge. Then he spots Lord Bailey and Lady Rosara and blurts out an apology for just showing up out of nowhere. But the couple lights up when he shows up, and Bailey practically tells him, "You're welcome anytime." Still, Rosara clocks the shift in his face the second he walks in. She presses, asking if anything went down back at the sanctuary, and that question kicks everything off. Harris ends up right by her bedside, finally working up the nerve to tell them the truth about getting fired. He starts with, "Actually," and lays out the whole mess. Bailey is totally shell-shocked, calling the choice to boot out a talent like Harris pure idiocy, and you can tell he's furious, right on Harris's behalf, but Harris understands one brutal truth. If he keeps showing up for official treatments here, Director Dahlin will start hunting this family too, because the Entrus family are the nobles who run all of this area. Harris snaps to the truth. If he stays, this territory's bond with the sanctuary is gonna unravel fast. He also knows Bailey's a lord, and that means her duty is to protect her people. He won't let that guy get hauled into his chaos, so right there, he snaps into action and vows to sneak Lady Rosara's medicine to her, no questions asked. He tells himself this public connection has to end, right now, because the only way to keep them safe is to shut the door before the fallout hits. Bailey locks eyes with Harris and flat out tells him, "You haven't even paid back the debt you still owe me." Harris gets blindsided, but Rosara just grins and tells him she could never forget what he's done because she still remembers how every other healer threw in the towel, while Harris somehow kept going, pouring every last bit of himself into helping her. He'd burn the midnight oil every night, hammering himself to the bone just to get her medicine finished. And she leans in and tells him that both he and his research are absolutely, undeniably special. Bailey stands tall and demands the world finally see how insanely good Harris really is. Rosara gazes at him with pure kindness, telling him she knows he'll be fine, because she's seen his hard work with her own eyes, and she's not guessing. She tries to talk to her husband, but Bailey barrels in and shuts her down, because he's already made his call. He shoots his hand out and right there on the spot, gives Harris a proper welcome into the Entrus family. So yeah, it's about to get wild because Harris just stands there, eyes burning with tears, and he can't even wrap his head around what's happening. Bailey tells Harris, "Don't stress about your messy past with the sanctuary. I've already got a solid plan ready." And then he pitches Harris on Delos Village, says the water and soil are so perfect they'll let him grow top-tier magic herbs. As Bailey strides out of the room, he tells Harris, "Let me talk to everyone we've been hitting. Those different places lately are all my job." So Risara glances over and blurts out that she's finally thrilled she can be useful. Then she calls Harris' name. She squeezes his hand and tells him she's always needed his strength, still does, but now it's their turn to stand tall and protect him. Risara whispers her thanks from the bed, and Harris can only sputter a shaky "thank you" back before he crumples into tears, clutching his shirt tight as everything they've done for him finally smashes into his heart. A little while later, a carriage sits waiting right by the estate's main gates, ready to whisk Harris to his brand new home. Bailey storms after him, yelling that he can never forget, no matter what happens, they've got his back always. Harris grins and yells back, "Thanks to you guys, I'm finally set for a brand new start." Bailey watched the carriage shrink into the distance and told himself Harris had to hang on, because the world desperately needs people like him. Then he starts scanning the home visit patient list Harris left behind, and as the names hit his eyes, a cold sweat starts pouring down his face. Once he clocked this lineup of patients, he knew the territory was about to go full chaos. Suddenly, we're in Delos Village, in the Kingdom of Noel, where the carriage finally jerks to a stop in a calm little pocket, windmills turning, tiny houses standing quietly around it. But the second Harris glances out the window, this huge brute standing there snaps, "I don't recognize your face at all." It's Village Chief Russell, and he can't believe it. Most folks never come to a backwater like this, so he demands to know who Harris really is. Harris hops out, greets the chief like a pro, and admits he'd been secretly hoping he could move in and make the village his home. Which shocks Russell, he blurts, "Weirdo," yet somehow he keeps easing him in, welcoming him to the community until he takes a sharper look at Harris' outfit and freezes mid-sentence, blurting out, "Wait, are you really a healer?" Suddenly, the chief's face twists with rage, as he roars that healers have always just abandoned people like them to die. Russell stormed straight into Harris's space, yelling that he's got a ton of nerve for even showing up there, then snapped, demanding to know if he's really a healer. Right then, a woman barrels in, sobbing her heart out, begging Harris to save her daughter, and swearing she'll pay whatever it takes for the rest of her life. So Harris instantly jumps in to help, right in front of Russell, who tries to stop him from getting involved. He barely glances at the kid's raging fever and the crawling spots on her skin before it hits him. This isn't a mild case at all. It's red lizard disease, already way past the point where it can be stopped. When her mom breaks down and asks if she'll be okay, Harris snaps back that she'll be fine, because they can still reach her and save her in time. He knows normal healing magic won't cut it, so he dives into his bag and grabs the ingredients to whip up a special medicine. He hurriedly stirred powdered snakehead grass into liquid from boiled jinsetsu grass, then wrapped the whole mess up tight in Suzuka leaves. The villagers huddle in shock as Harris starts pumping his own mana into the mixture, forcing the cure to wake up. Then, once it's finally ready, he leans in and softly tells the little girl to sip it all the way down. A blinding glow wraps around the girl as she fights her way back to health. Then she gasps and finally cracks her eyes open, calling for her mom while the whole crowd watches, hearts finally easing. The mother yanks her daughter into a crushing hug, sobbing happy tears, while Harris lingers back with a proud, beaming smile. She keeps on crying, whispering, "Thank goodness," again and again, clinging to the fact that her little girl is finally okay. The kid yanks her hands into the air and screams that it's insanely amazing, like all that pain has vanished for good. So when Mom thanks him again, Harris shrugs it off, saying it's all in the job, and all he wants is to see her getting better. Then he whips around to the village chief and tells Russell not to stress. He doesn't need him to pay a single coin for this. While Russell just freezes in shock, Harris leans in and reveals the truth. He's not a healer at all, he's a magic herbalist. He leads them to the plants and tells them how the medicine he used was a special blend brewed from ordinary magic herbs, and he gets fired up, swears he'll make this medicine so powerful it feels like magic, so poor people finally stop dying, and then begs to stay in the village to do the research. He locks eyes with Russell and pleads for one shot, swearing he'll prove just how serious he truly is. Russell drops his head, admits Harris isn't some greedy healer like the rest, and then straight up apologizes for how much of a jerk he was earlier. The little girl beams with pure joy, shouting that Harris needs good luck, while her mom just stands there, watching the moment unfold. While Russell tells Harris he's more than welcome, he officially grants Harris the title of the magic herbalist and makes him a real member of Delos Village. Harris steps up, shakes the chief's hand, and thanks him for the opportunity, like he can finally feel everything turning his way. He couldn't pull a damn thing together back at that academy, so this feels unreal now that he's finally surrounded by people who actually recognize his worth. He pumps his fist, blazing with certainty that his dreams can come true here as the villagers stare in awe. Later that same day, in a whole new town, a bird swoops over some fancy buildings, clutching a letter in its beak. And it drops right beside a merchant who can't believe his luck, because getting a message from Lord Bailey like this is basically unheard of. The merchant finally cracks the letter open, eager to dig up the huge news, and it's a bold message to everyone. Harris got fired from the sanctuary, but the Intruse family won't let him fall. They're backing him with everything they've got. Rome Stockwell can barely process what she's reading, her face stuck in full shock, as she realizes Harris really got fired from the sanctuary. News of Harris spreads like wildfire, and Jurek, the top-tier adventurer, slams his answer down. He's in and he'll help. As Victoria and Tress gets blindsided, she blurts out, "Wait, are you telling me my own family is really backing you with everything they've got?" Macti the mage starts mulling it over hard, like, does this mean Harris is officially a free agent now? And even Emma Spadia, the kind of high-ranking noble lady who gets obeyed, says Master Gustave's apprentice is absolutely worth recruiting. Back at the estate, Lady Rosara watches her staff scatter as word hits the air. Everyone's freaking out because Harris' name is about to go viral online. Finally, he thinks the world will get it. He's a top-tier magic herb pharmacist, and they'll see him for what he truly is. In the village, things suddenly look bright as Russell and the others welcome Harris with open arms, but that strange seed sitting nearby could matter way more than anyone's admitting. Harris is genuinely buzzing to kick off the next chapter, even while Russell quietly feels guilty for dragging a man from the royal capital into this tiny little town. They tell him there's no fancy ending here, just a dusty old shack perched on the edge of the village, and Harris can't stop smiling because it finally keeps the rain off him. He gazes over the village with a grin, locking in the very spot where his new life as a magic herbalist is about to ignite. Russell skids up to a tree and tells Harris, "We finally made it, this is the spot." As Harris stares at that creaky old shack, he can't help wondering, could this really be where his new life is about to begin? Russell stares at the building, blurts out an apology for not seeing how wrecked it got, and Harris just stands there, taking it all in. But Russell grabs his shoulder, tells him not to spiral, and swears he'll help him get that house fixed up. Harris drops to his knees, scoops up a handful of dirt, and grins like he's just proud the forest and the river are right there. He stares at the soil, and it feels like his wildest dream is about to burst into reality. The chief couldn't help it. He leaned in and fired off. "All right, Harris, how do you even grow magic herbs in the first place?" So Harris breaks it down. Basically, it's like growing normal veggies once you till the soil, but mana and magic energy are the real game changers. Russell hears that and clenches his tool, blurting, "Oh, I get it now," and then, like it all clicks into. He's completely fired up, and he tells Harris, "Come on, we're moving now. It's time to start farming." Russell tilts his head toward the trees and blurts that he wants to see it too, a real world where Harris's dream isn't just a wish anymore, it's the truth. He slaps a hand on Harris' shoulder and asks if he means a place where even broke people can be rescued, and Harris lights up, saying that would be the best thing ever. The two of them go absolutely wild, screaming at the top of their lungs like, "Let's make this happen." Harris darts in to thank the chief, practically glowing with relief, because with Rosara and Lord Bailey watching his back, he feels unbelievably lucky. He forces himself to pause, then locks in on the plan, this exact spot, and that special item he snatched from his dad's old research hut is exactly what he needs. After grinding through endless hard work, they finally stare at the finished farm rows. Then Harris explodes, shouting, "We did it, it's finally done." They just stood there, grinning at each other like the whole world disappeared. Then Harris whips out a tiny box and tells him it's showtime, no more stalling. Russell peeks inside and freezes at the logic, while Harris just grins and asks if it looks like seeds to him. And yeah, those rumors are true, because they're not just any powers, they're insanely special. Harris stares at the special seeds, wondering how his dad left them behind. Yeah, they're supposed to be all Ron seeds, but he can't shake the feeling he has no idea what's coming next. Suddenly the ground lights up, Russell screams, and the dirt erupts into blinding glow right in front of them. Vines and flowers shoot up at insane speed, curling together until they form a chilling human shape and then right in the heart of the garden, this tiny girl with rose-petal hair steps into view, and Harris just freezes with his mouth hanging open, unable to move while a little girl starts to tip over, and Harris shoots out his arm to catch her, right on time, so she's safe and sound. He keeps staring at her, like his brain can't wrap itself around the fact that this kid is a total monster, because she doesn't look like any monster he's ever seen, and then she She lurches into his arms and belts out Papa, with the biggest smile imaginable plastered across her face. Russell just freezes in the back, totally stunned, mumbling Papa over and over like he can't process what he's hearing. Harris thrusts the girl out at arm's length and snaps, "Hold on a second, I'm definitely not your dad." The girl grins even wider and says, "Because I was born from your magic, you're my papa, period, no matter what." Russell just freezes in pure shock, staring at the kid, because how on earth could something like this burst out of a seed? Harris scrambles to explain. She's basically an all-around magical plant familiar, but even he can't quite hide how stunned he is. Totally confused, he spots the little girl locked onto an old, busted shack far off, and he asks if she's scared of what's inside. He takes one look at the place and basically admits it, calling it a house is a stretch, because it's falling apart and begging for a complete overhaul, and then the girl suddenly slips out of his arms, snaps, "I'll fix it myself," and Harris just freezes, sputtering confused sounds. While she sprints straight into the ruins, he watches her vanish, stunned, because how on earth is a little kid supposed to fix an entire building by? All by herself, the girl barrels up to the shack and starts talking to it, telling it she gets why it crumbled, how it was lonely with no one living inside. She stares at that old wood with a deadly serious look, then tells the building she's about to share her power with it. She shouts for the house to get better, and then a massive wave of light and sparkles bursts out, swallowing everything across the rotting old wood starts to twist and crumble, then bursts into a soft, hungry glow as her magic surges through it. Harris and Russell are left totally stunned. Russell bursts out, yelling that the place looks brand new, and then he can't believe it, asking if that kid really just had a full-on conversation with a shed. The flower girl dives her hand into Harris's belt pouch, snatches a handful of seeds, and urges him to free the little ones too. Harris watches her stretch those seeds out to him, and he blurts out, "Wait, are those real magic grass seeds?" She just grins like it's nothing, then hurls them into the sky and barks at everyone to wake up. Boom. A colossal garden of flowers and plants erupts to life, spilling beauty everywhere as it. Russell freezes there in total awe and blurts that it's incredible. He always knew she was something special. Meanwhile, Harris can't stop staring like, this is not normal at all. The little girl giggles and tilts her head back at Harris, then asks, like it's the most important thing in the world, if she's amazing. He pats her on the head and declares, with total confidence, that she's absolutely incredible. He thinks, yeah, her power is wild, but she still looks like an ordinary little girl, and Russell, meanwhile, just stands in the back, completely wiped out by everything. The village chief pats Harris on the shoulder and tells him to count his blessings and smile, because he's got such a cute daughter. Then the girl suddenly yells, "Papa, Harris." Harris gets totally flustered and blurts that being called Papa is super embarrassing, then practically begs her to just use his name instead. She slaps him a high five and shouts a sweet, cute version of his name, and he just grins back, telling her it's a pleasure to meet her. Harris stares at the girl and can't believe she's just a regular kid with wild powers, so he decides he's going to give her a cute name. Russell stares at her and blurts that the way she repairs houses and grows plants makes her straight up a forest goddess, and that sparks Harris's curiosity. The village chief yanks out a dusty old amulet and leans in, telling you there's a legend everyone in these parts has been whispering for ages about. A village guardian named Lelashaldai, an eerily powerful forest god who's said to have transformed a dead wasteland into a living home, raising houses and coaxing crops from the earth. Harris hears the tale, then mutters Lelashaldite under his breath, hunting for a shorter way to say it like Lelusha. He leans toward the trees, then turns to the girl and asks how Lesha sounds to her, just testing the name in her mouth. She stares up at him with wide, shining eyes as he grins and tells her, since we're borrowing it from a goddess, the name for it is officially. She erupts into cheers, spins and dances in place, yelling her brand new name over and over, "I'm Leisha now." Russell just stands there watching her celebrate in the background and goes, "Yeah, it's like she truly loves it." Then he smiles and says, "So the name fits." Harris thrusts his hand out, grins, and tells Lesha he can't wait to team up with her from here on out. Leisha beams up at Harris, grinning and saying it's a pleasure to finally meet him, then slips and calls him Harishu, because she's officially a girl born from a magic herb now. Night crashes over the village, and boom, the biggest party erupts, with maids darting through the crowd, lugging trays of drinks, and serving everyone beneath the bright moon. Russell jumps up to give a formal speech, names magic herbalist Harris, and shows off his new familiar, Leisha, to the whole village. Then some jerk in the crowd shouts for him to hurry up and wrap it, because it's been dragging on forever. The chief just chuckles it off and nods along, and then the whole village erupts into one massive roar, welcoming Harris and Lesha straight into their home. Everyone lifts their beer barrels high, roars with cheers, and slams them back in one loud, fiery toast to kick off the celebration. The little girl Harris saved comes barreling in with a plate of food, looking perfectly healthy, and tells him she's feeling great now. Harris flashes her a warm smile and tells her he's thrilled she's doing well, then urges her to drop by again anytime she starts feeling off. The kid lights up at the news, then spots a tiny flower girl and immediately asks Harris if she's the Lesha everyone's been talking about. Harris tells her yes, begs her to be a real good friend, and while Leisha hangs back looking a little shy, she chimes in to the girl, "Please, be nice." The girl beams and introduces herself, then snatches Lesha's hand and yanks her along to hunt down Cake, while Harris just stands there, watching them disappear. Harris watches Leisha and the girl stroll away together, clutching Cake, grinning like he can't believe it. She's already been accepted by everyone in the village. Russell leans in with a huge grin, asking Harris if he's having a good time, while some guy in the back yells that they're smashing through the booze at lightning speed. Harris says he's having a blast since the food and drinks are unreal, and that sets Russell off. He starts bragging that their local booze is so famous it even reaches the capital. The chief's grin flickers off. He gets deadly serious and demands, "Why would the Holy Institute ever fire a top-tier herbologist like you?" Harris lets out an awkward chuckle and blurts that he only wishes the old director agreed too, while his mind drags him back to the guy who kicked him out. Russell tells him that arrogant folks always end up smashing their own lives, and that's why staying honest, just like Harris, is the smartest way to live. Harris takes another drink, staring into the glass like it'll answer him, thinking that even if these folks look rough on the outside, every last one of them has a good heart. Harris looks over the party, hears the cheers rolling under the moonlight, and suddenly realizes coming to this village was the best choice he could have made. The party rages all night, and when dawn finally creeps over the rooftops, the whole city starts waking up, right as we're heading into a new day. A pretty rough morning, everyone's sprawled out on the tables, and Harris is slumped over a barrel so out of it he can't even lift his head. Harris slumps on a bench outside, groaning that he absolutely went too far with the drinks, even as he thinks, man, it's been forever since a party hit this hard. Lesha drifts over and asks if he's okay, but Harris can barely squeak out that he's fine as he hangs over the table. He realizes he's got the perfect cure for this hangover and tells Leisha, "I grew magic herbs yesterday, a mix of cooling spring herbs and heat herbs, brewed into a fast potion to knock it out." They pour the herbal mix into a couple of mugs, then slam it back in one go. Harris perks up in an instant, pumps his fist, and shouts that the fog's gone, and now he feels 10 times better. He shoots Leisha a quick thank you for the save, and she throws a proud pose like, "Anytime, just know you can always count on me for stuff like this." Harris decides to spread the good stuff, dares everyone else to try it, and right then a super hungover Russell stumbles in and blurts, "So, what exactly are you drinking?" The second that tea hits Russell's system, his eyes snap wide open as the medicine finally kicks in. The villagers break into awe, saying it feels like sprinting through a seaside meadow, or like a warm spring breeze blasts straight through your body. Russell realizes that brutal heartburn is finally gone, and everyone turns to thank Harris and Lesha for rescuing them from a truly awful morning. Harris and Leisha steal a calm moment together, grinning like the morning finally did them right as everyone finishes their tea, they're stunned. The magic medicine works like a miracle, curing a hangover just as well as a real disease. Russell yells that he can finally drink as much as he wants without a single worry, but Harris snaps at him to cool it. Then a villager comes barreling in, screaming that a massive emergency just hit. The guy gasps out that a whole line of carriages with crests just rolled into the village, and that news leaves Russell totally baffled, like, who on earth would be coming to town? The messenger carves a symbol in the air, teardrop outline, scales packed inside, and he's nearly positive it's the exact one he saw. Harris spots it instantly and shoots back, "Are those from the Stockwell Company?" But Russell refuses to believe him, saying he must have misread it because there's no chance a legendary name that big would ever waste time on a backwater village out in the middle of nowhere. Turns out it's the Stockwell Company for real, those world-class trading monsters who almost never stray from the safe, familiar routes. But the carriage line is already parked outside, and the driver yells that they've finally hit Delos Village. A voice bursts from inside the carriage with a quick thank you, and the coachman grins that they handled the whole long ride brilliantly. Inside the lead carriage, Rome leans out and stares at the quiet village, stunned that Harris is really bunking down in a place this small. As the boss of the world-famous Stockwell Trading Company, Rome is absolutely sure this is the turning point, and their brand new medicine is finally about to break into the global market. The doors burst open, and a massive pack of suited staff pours out. Boom. the legendary 88-suit Legion struts into the village with a grand, unstoppable entrance. Russell snaps that the carriages are 100% from the Stockwell Company, but Harris can't stop scratching his head. Why would they roll in with a crowd this huge? The girl climbs down from the carriage, and Harris finally recognizes her, staring in shock as he demands, "Wait, you're really Rome." The moment she spots him, her whole face lights up, and she screams his name like she's been holding her breath, waiting for this forever. She doesn't even pause, she bolts straight at the guys, and they just stand there, stunned, watching her sprint toward them. She rushes up, snatches Harris's hands on the spot, and blurts out that she's beyond thrilled to finally meet him again. Harris is thrown off so hard by the kid's sudden energy that he stumbles over his words and awkwardly demands, "Who are you even?" Rome finally forces his breathing to slow, bows with a quick apology, and admits he's been painfully late, so he can give you a real, proper introduction. Rome launches her pitch to Harris, promising she can score everything from basic breakfast bread to actual dragon nail clippers. All the suited workers freeze in place right behind her, staring like they're one command away from launching into action. She steps up and declares herself the Stockwell Trading Company's second-generation head. No joke, she's calling it like it is, the finest merchant alive right now. Then she panics, maybe she rushed things by sending a message bird ahead, but her carriage sprints past it anyway. That's when the tiny bird hops onto her finger, hiccuping like it's in on the joke, while Russell tells her the whole village is stuck in a brutal 3-day hangover. Loam spun around, marveled at how crystal clear the air and water were, and basically said, "That's why the local vintage wine tastes so unreal." She offers to spread the drink around, but Russell snaps it down fast, bluntly claiming the recipe is a village secret. Russell's jaw drops, she knows way too much about this backwater town, and as he presses, "Who are you really?" the Stockwell name echoes and hits like thunder. Turns out it's the biggest guild in the whole kingdom, selling every treasure and piece of gear you can dream up. Kobe built the whole empire from the ground up in just one generation, and now his 17-year-old kid is already taking the reins. Harris keeps the introductions rolling, breaking down how Rome has been training since he was a kid, then drops the wild truth that the kid's business logic crushes even his father's, and suddenly Rome isn't just promising, he's a top-tier merchant in his own right, which... Russell's stunned because the chief stares at Rome and snaps, "No way, that kid looks just like a girl." Rome just shrugs it off, scratches the back of his head, and says, "Yeah, people mess that up all the time." Harris goes for the full send, insisting, despite the face, that Rome is 100% a boy. The second the truth hits, Russell and the rest of the village guys snap. Every last one of them flips out, totally unable to process what they're hearing. Even with that cute face and flowery charm, there's one thing the evidence makes crystal clear: Rome Stockwell is absolutely a guy. Harris pushes past the confusion and tells everyone, with pure relief in his voice, that he's just thrilled to see Rome thriving like this. It's huge because back when he was a patient, the Holy Institute flat-out abandoned Rome, left him to rot for dead, until... Then Harris finally stepped in with his special magic herbs, and suddenly Rome was flooded with smiles, with everyone thanking him for saving Harris's life and restoring his health. While everyone chatters away, Leisha hangs back in silence, watching the whole scene unfold like it's happening in her own mind. Rome drops to one knee, meeting Leisha eye to eye, flashing a warm smile as he introduces himself, and then he asks her name. Leisha grins and blurts out her name, then asks why he's here, only for Rome to laugh and explain that he isn't just passing through, he came to visit Harris. Harris is utterly stunned. He can't wrap his head around it when Rome rolls in with a whole crew from the guild, and he blurts out, "What's going on?" Rome snaps at him to drop the act, then points out that the moment Harris got fired, he came barreling over like he couldn't wait to get involved. The kid erupts in a furious rant, ripping into Harris for being painfully careless with his own safety. Rome suddenly gets serious, saying that now Harris is finally free from the Holy Institute, his herb research can truly shake the world, and then he... With a quick wink, they basically told Harris, "We're all in, let's back your research and make sure you're supported." Rome doesn't treat it like a simple favor. She pats the supplies like they're the proof, and tells everyone they're about to lock in a real merchant deal, the proper way. He whips back to Harris and blurts, "Please, just one more time, can we talk about those magic herbs?" And Russell jumps in, too, saying he's curious, while the little girl swings her hand like crazy and shouts that she doesn't want to be left out. Harris lifts a tiny, ordinary-looking weed and tells the crew, "See, it's nothing special," like he's daring them to doubt him and then he breaks it down hard. This magic grass isn't some rare, legendary miracle at all. It's basically just a plain old weed that grows anywhere you look. The real secret is the plant's design. It's made to gulp up every kind of mana floating in the air and lock it away for later. But most of the time, that power just evaporates into nothing, unless you're a top-tier mage who can trap it and keep it from disappearing. But the weed flips everything, because the mana trapped in that magic grass stays locked in place, clean, stable, and way easier to use. Victoria takes a slow sip, eyes locked in thought as she weighs everything in her cup while. As she realizes it's like carrying water, no grip, no hands can hold it, yet the plant turns into a perfect cup, letting her move it wherever she needs. Harris is blown away, tells her she's sharp, and then explains that if you blend these herbs just right, they'll heal anyone, no magic in the blood at all. He holds up the smashed-up mixture like it's some sacred magic herb potion, and swears it's the real deal, and Russell stares at the evidence in pure shock, blurting out, "So this is what Harris has been grinding on all these years," and the guy just nods calmly, like it's no big deal. Loam nods along as Harris fires back, saying his appraisal gift lets him read exactly what the plants are going to do. Victoria notices he still hasn't cracked the right way to mix or process them, so he's just slamming together every single combo like a mad scientist, and she's convinced it would be a total nightmare to sit through. She's completely stunned that something as basic as weeds can be whipped into real, legit medicine like this. The whole group decides to roll out, and Harris practically sparks with excitement, urging everyone to go scout the fields together. The four of them race to the garden fence, hunting for any sign of progress. Victoria's jaw drops at how fast everything is exploding in growth, especially since Harris only just rolled into the village a short time ago. Harris just grins, pats Leisha on the head, and tells everyone her power is why she's growing so fast, while Leisha tosses out loud brag after loud brag about how amazing she is. He admits he's totally stunned it's working this well, then he reaches into the bag of seeds and Handsome strides over to Leisha, barking that it's time to wake these kids up too. She flashes him a quick salute and dives straight into the job. Victoria just stares as she walks off, totally baffled. What the heck was he talking about, waking up a whole bunch of plants? Lesha rockets into the sky with a thunderous shout, flexing her moves in the garden as Harris and the others stare in awe. Victoria stares at the thriving plants and realizes something huge. Once Lesha's power locks in, Harris' research is about to rocket forward faster than ever. She says they're finally going to brew all kinds of magic elixirs, ones that can rescue patients doctors have already given up on, and no one can stop them. Once they crack the process, they'll be able to churn out the medicine even if the person making it has zero mana and not a drop of talent. Harris just keeps nodding like, that's the whole point. Me and my dad, Master Gustav, have been chasing this exact goal for years. Loam jumps in and says, with tech like this, the guild can crank out and ship healing goods at scale, so healing magic won't be the only option anymore. So yeah, this means the Holy Temple is about to lose its monopoly on healing, and the whole absolute power system propping them up is about to crumble. Victoria stands frozen in silence, and then it hits her. This world is changing right before her eyes. The whole crew huddles in the open field, staring at the plants as if they're the spark of a brand new future for everyone. So Victoria snaps out, ready to get serious, and makes it crystal clear. Stockwell Company is fully prepared to back Harris' herbal research. Harris tells them it's even better than he ever dreamed, then immediately asks, are you sure? Because joining up with him means sacrificing their bond with the Holy Academy for good. Victoria doesn't even flinch. She acts like she saw this coming, shrugs it off, and says she's totally okay with walking away from them. Harris relives the day they kicked him out and torched every one of his research results, then left him with zero answers, forcing him to rebuild from scratch using only his memory and hard-earned experience. Victoria's face twists with disgust as she rips into the academy, because they didn't just ignore his magic potion potential, they went full sabotage and tried to destroy him in the most messed up way. Loam steps in, blunt and fired up, saying the temple's ego, and the way they've been running things, has finally shoved their guild straight to the breaking point. And he snaps that business is meant to run on trust, something they sure as hell can't bank on from the Holy Temple anymore. Victoria locks eyes with Harris and tells him, I trust you because you saved my life. Then she leans in and adds with raw respect that she can't ignore how he still fights to save others, even after they turned his work to ashes. Village Chief Russell stares them down and finally gets it. This isn't just about the money for Victoria. Harris didn't merely pay her, he completely swallowed her soul. Victoria clenches her crest and swears she'll stand by Harris, heart and soul, on the streets as a person and in the marketplace through her work as a merchant. She lays it out. Stockwell's whole philosophy is built on business that helps the seller, the buyer, and society, keeping things fair, balanced, and square for everyone. Victoria rips open her past and tells the truth. Harris went against everything the Holy Academy swears by, all to keep her alive, so she spent every bit of this time leveling up her merchant skills just to repay him. She's dead sure that once his top-tier research and her family's crazy bankroll team up, it'll finally be time. Magic potions will storm the world. She thrusts her hand toward him, practically radiating light as she tells him, with fire in her voice, that they've got to change the world together. Harris stares at the horizon, and the thought hits him like a punch. He's actually walking the same path as the person he can't stop thinking about. Then it clicks. This time, he can save way more lives because he's teamed up with the very same boy he saved back then. So he thrusts out his hand and tells her, loud and clear, he's all in on this deal. With a sharp handshake, they seal the deal, and Harris leans in, telling her he's putting everything on her to make it happen. A few days slip by, and then bam, the quiet village erupts in noise as a massive wooden frame for a brand new building shoots up right before everyone's eyes. Village Chief Russell can barely breathe. He stands there in full shock, staring at the impossible sight of the world-famous Stockwell Company's branch actually rising in a place like theirs. Victoria stands right beside him, beaming as she thanks the village for letting them move in and set up the new headquarters for their magic herb division. Seeing all that progress sparks something in Harris, he turns to the group and demands, should we start expanding our own business operations too? Just as Chief Russell was in the middle of explaining herb production, a villager burst in, screaming that a massive emergency had erupted. The chief whips around, pure annoyance on his face, and snaps, what on earth is happening now? He gasps for air and blurts out that their whole supply hunt just got wrecked because a massive monster suddenly jumped them. Harris and the others freeze in disbelief, and Harris practically demands, say that again, what just happened right thereat. Deep in the woods, a hulking muscular orc erupts with a savage roar as it swings its club through the air. One of the workers barely throws himself aside as the gigantic weapon crashes into the ground, ripping up dirt right beside him. His buddy rushes over to check on him, and there he sits stunned, clutching his bleeding head. They grab him and start hauling him off, yelling for everyone to scatter, praying Harris can mend those wounds the moment they get back. The guys suddenly spot not one, not two, but three orcs closing in at the same time, and that's insane, because high-rank monsters never get this close to the village. They sprint with everything they've got, desperate to reach the village and deliver that message to the Capitals Guild before things spiral even farther out of control. Turns out those suits were just the beginning. Now an entire horde of orcs is charging in and wrecking the area. Harris blurts that he heard 3 orcs are rolling up, and the village chief instantly snaps, yelling whether everyone's okay. One of the escapees burst back in, yelling that the monsters are on his heels and charging straight for the village. Chief Russell barks that they'll stop them right here, and he yells for anyone who can swing a weapon to fall in behind him. Meanwhile, word rockets to the guild. Adventurers rush in to evacuate everyone and race a message to the capital. Harris can already feel the coming bloodbath, so he tells Russell, I'm coming too, to back up and help the wounded. They spot a bunch of villagers fast, and Harris barrels over immediately, checking every single injury. The guys breathe a sigh of relief that they made it, then one of them says, wait, there are still people trapped further up the path. Russell tells Harris to stay put and lock in on the medical work while he grabs the heavy lifting and goes to handle everything else. He snatches his axe and flashes a grin, bragging that he was the real deal back in the day and that a few orcs won't stand a chance. Harris snarls at the villager to get moving and keep out of danger, swearing he's way tougher than he looks, while, as he wraps the guy's arm with medicine, he snaps that his wounds are good to go, so he better head back to the village. The man thanks him for the help, but then he leans in and warns him, out there, you better watch your back, because danger doesn't blink. Harris vows he'll be careful, saying Russell and the best guards are on their side, so nothing gets out of hand, but the guy is shaking with pure terror and blurts out that this whole situation is nothing like you think. He shouts that it's not some random handful of orcs, it's a colossal horde, and Harris just freezes there, utterly stunned. Up ahead, Chief Russell is already caught in a brutal brawl, barely scraping by as a monster's heavy smash crashes toward him. One of the other fighters screams that the numbers are a joke because it hits them fast. They're not facing 3 orcs, they're staring down at least 20. Victoria's stomach drops as she scans her supplies, panic spiking. She knows the odds are brutal, and she's running out of magic tools. Things spiral fast when an orc creeps up behind her, and Russell has to scream for her to whip around, because if she doesn't, it's over. Victoria hurls herself through the woods, clutching a seed like it's her last chance. Panic claws at her as she races toward the deadline, praying she'll make it in time. As she shrieks for Leisha to grab the seed, she hurls it with every ounce of strength straight at her, and Then bam, vines burst from the earth and slam shut around the orc, choking him inside a thick, thorny trap. Harris bursts in at exactly the right moment, practically breathless with relief, while Victoria shoots him a grateful look, thanks him for saving her, and can't help wondering what kind of plant this even is. Harris blurts out the name, vine bindweed, and warns it's no-joke magic plant that can tear through and crush entire buildings. And he admits he only thought to use it because Lesha's plant growth powers lit the idea in his head, but the win already feels short because the orc starts flexing, his muscles bulge so hard the vines snap like paper, instantly like they're nothing. Harris clocks that with that kind of raw brute strength, they're just stalling for time, but he vows he'll keep backing them up. Things look bleak as hell. Harris blurts that they're nearly out of herbs, and the group is still getting crushed by sheer odds. So Chief Russell makes the call, blasts the warning that they're about to get overrun, and orders a full retreat right now. Harris and the others huddle back, watching as Jurek slides in right behind the massive oar, ready to shove it into motion. He moved like lightning, slashing deep into the orc's throat, and blood erupted everywhere. As she calmly tells the group, "Hang on a second, I've got to finish cleaning up this mess," and Harris can't stop staring at that hooded girl, his mind racing as he tries to figure out exactly who she really is. She shoots straight into the thick of the crowd, slipping past their weapons at breakneck speed. Harris can barely even think straight as Jurek whips through the air, wiping out multiple targets in a single, insane sweep, and she turns and strolls off like it's nothing, while the orcs behind her crumple to the ground after her lightning-quick hits. Harris locks eyes with her, blurts out that name like he's sure it's Jury, then Russell's jaw drops, and he's so shocked he demands to know who she is, because she's unreal so. Harris leans in and spills it. She's a steel fang through and through, the daughter of their leader Zoan, who rules the whole Beastman clan. Russell clocks it, this crew is in the top tier, and that's exactly why she steamrolls 20 orcs like they're nothing, shredding them as they come. Jurek stands smack in the middle of the chaos. 20 orcs are sprawled across the ground, completely wiped out by the girls came flying at crazy speed. Russell and the villagers are so stunned they can't even find the words for what they just witnessed. And Jurek swings back to the group and flashes a casual thumbs up, because she's the real deal, a top-tier adventurer all the way. She strides up to Harris and says it's been a while. He thanks her for saving him, but he's totally thrown off. Why is she even here in this area? So Jurek tells her, "I heard you moved to that nearby village." She clocks the chaos spilling across the road and decides to step in, then she stops because. But Harris is still reeling. He blurts out, "Why are you here now?" when her clan is supposedly one step away from clearing the Stardust Labyrinth. Jurek just grins, tells him he's a massive benefactor to the Steel Fang crew, and then hits the truth hard. Adventurers never forget a debt. Harris realizes she's still weirdly calm after the brawl, and Jurek admits it was Harris who taught her to keep her head down and read the situation, and she flashes back to her rookie days, back when she got way too cocky, landed herself in a nightmare, and had to watch her father step in and take over before everything collapsed. And he vowed to protect her, because in the flashback a doctor stared at her dad's leg and declared it was basilisk venom, then said the only way to save him was to cut it off. The healer screams that if Jurek's dad loses his leg, his career is done for, then little Jurek crumples, sobbing that it's all her fault. She yanks the healer's coat and begs him to save her father, but he coldly turns his back and walks off like he doesn't care. He snaps at her, calling her annoying, then spits the cruel truth. If they're so determined to keep the leg, they can just go ahead and die together. Jurek is left there sobbing his guts out, barely squeezing out a word. Then a younger Harris comes sprinting by, running straight past that jerk healer, bursting into the room and demanding, right then and there, to see the patient immediately. Harris stares at Jurek's dad and realizes the poison and the petrification are spreading in lockstep, so he grabs onto his dad's research, knowing he can cure both at once while Jurek's still out there. Jurek sobs for help, but Harris just locks eyes with total confidence and promises he'll fix him, so she needs to sit back and watch him work. He rips open his medical kit, saying the cockatrice poison has to be fought the moment the petrification starts. Then he turns to the little girl and asks if she's ready to jump in and help. He doesn't pat her like some overgrown big brother. He tells her she's a good girl, then orders her to wipe those tears, breathe, and calm down. They jump into the treatment together. Harris breaks it down, showing her how to rub in the cure while the antidote takes effect. Then he watches her closely and softly tells her to slow down just a bit. Harris keeps her eyes on the treatment, urging Jurek to stay calm while they work, and the little girl clenches her jaw and tells herself she's got to size up the situation. And Harris keeps grinding through his training, snapping into every right move to stop that poison from crawling any farther. They grind through the night together, and when the sun finally climbs up, they wrap everything up. Zain snaps up off the bed in an instant, muscles flexing hard as he erupts in a full-throated roar. Zain scoops his daughter into a massive hug as she sobs happy tears, because Harris's treatment finally worked, bringing him back exactly like it was meant to. And right here in the present, Jurek tears through the final beats of the story to the group, face locked in, like she's been dropped back into that moment once again. She tells you this wasn't just some heroic moment. Harris didn't only save her father's life that day, he yanked her back from the edge of total despair. Tears brimming in her eyes, she stared at him, overflowing with respect and gratitude so strong she couldn't find a single word big enough. She tells everyone, they fired my hero so dirty and unfair, so yeah, of course it's on me to step up and help him now. Jurek tells him to dump all the nasty work on her and her team, and Harris just grins, like, wow, having her here is a total weight off his shoulders. Zohan looks almost relieved as he tells the group, we needed muscle way sooner than I thought, and then he shrugs and says he figured that's exactly what we'd get from a crew like the Steel Fangs, and he keeps the good vibes rolling, laughing like they can shrug off anything that comes their way, while Harris looks a little stressed, snapping at the big guy to stop jinxing them before the trouble even hits. Once the area is finally wiped clean of orcs, Zain snaps into action and tells everyone to pack up and sprint back to the village. They're already yelling about dumping another massive feast the second they step through the door. Jurek can't even process it, blurting, you're partying again this soon. But just as the group starts to head out, Jurek suddenly freezes solid. Harris spots her lagging behind and shouts her name like, Jurek, what's wrong? But she just locks eyes on the trees, telling him the brawl isn't done yet, and then she drops the truth. Orcs don't usually travel like this, they swarm in small groups, so seeing a horde this huge is straight up not normal. Harris starts to feel something's horribly wrong as he repeats her words, and just like that, a flock of birds erupts in panic and rockets off into the sky. Leaving Jurek to choke on his worst fears, she draws her daggers, locked in, eyes sharp, because she's telling him the leader is finally stepping out. The whole crew slams into a tight defensive circle, weapons up, while Jurek shouts that trouble is coming, company is about to hit them. An enormous, terrifying orc lord bursts through the trees with a giant blade raised, and just like that, boom, the real fight erupts. Harris screams for the team to smash the final boss, but Jurek realizes this monster is a whole different beast, so she orders everyone to back off and declares she'll take it down by herself. Then the monsters unleash a brutal blast of wind, and when their swing connects, Harris and the crew get hurled backward like ragdolls, scrambling just to stay upright. Harris can't even process it. How could a mere sword press unleash that kind of impact? Turns out the Orc Lord is a one-of-a-kind monster of a leader, wielding power so far beyond the others it's not even funny. Turning it into a disaster-class monster that could wipe out a whole village, Harris can't stop asking how in the world something this deadly is even out here. Zohan admits he completely misjudged how deadly this threat really is. Then Jurek tries to charge in, but the shockwaves hit so hard she can't even get within striking distance of the beast. Zohan watches Jurek fight, feeling totally helpless and wishing he could somehow step in and save him. Suddenly, Lisha launches into a sprint straight for the fight, and Harris snaps out of it, yelling her name right as she vanishes into the chaos. She's seconds from getting wiped out by a blasting piece of debris. She jerks out of the way at the last second and can't believe how close that rock came. Harris storms over the second she slams down, breathless and panicked as he blurts out whether she's okay after a hit like that. Lesha whips a glance back, a fresh scratch on her face, eyes locked on the mission. Then she tells Harris, your friend's out there fighting with everything she's got, so I'm doing my part too, and I'm jumping in to help. Harris watches Lisha throw caution to the wind, and that's when he snaps. He can't stand there hesitating anymore, so he lunges in, tells her he's ready for whatever it takes, and demands she tell him exactly how he can help. Then he asks Lisha to lend him a hand for the plan, and she's all in, even while Jurek stays in the back, fighting tooth and nail just to keep himself in the game. Zohan yells, demanding to know what Harris is up to, while Victoria screams back that whatever he's doing is straight up too dangerous. Harris shrugs them off and hurls seeds straight at the monster, shouting for Lisha to handle it. Then bam, the seeds burst into brutal thorny vines that snap around the Orc Lord like living chains. The beast snarls as it gets tangled up, and Jurek explodes in with a strike the second it's trapped. Russell stares in shock as the monster doesn't even twitch through the vines, while Victoria's worry spikes by the second. Victoria snaps at Harris to study Lisha's face, and the moment he does, he senses it, something terribly off, and Lisha looks completely. It makes Harris question if he pushed her too far, because he finally sees it. She doesn't have endless magic, and she's crashing toward her breaking point. He slams on the brakes to think, and suddenly it hits him. Lisha was born from a seed, powered by his own magic. So if that's the rule, he mutters, and the rest of the thought hangs in the air. He snatches her up and demands she just tap straight into his magic power so the fight can keep raging. Lisha locks eyes with him and says it's not much, but he should grab every ounce of what she's got. Harris doesn't even blink. He vows he'll use that power, so the words cut off as the moment hits. So Lisha flashes a smile, thanks him, and admits she feels like she can go again, like the two of them finally click and move as one. And Harris clamps her to his side, as those thorny vines lunge forward like they're alive and breathing. Harris knows stalling for time is all he can squeeze out against a normal orc's strength, but when an orc lord steps in, even a few seconds feel like they'll slip through his fingers. But he figures if he can throw the big guy off just long enough, maybe, just maybe, he can flip this whole fight around while the orc lord thrashes and roars as those magic plants clamp down harder, fighting tooth and nail to rip himself free from the trap. Jurek spots the opening and snaps to Harris that this distraction is the perfect gift. She's locked in, ready to move because Boris spots it. Jurek's back in the fight, and she rockets into the air, then slams down on the monster like a falling shadow. She yanks her daggers mid-flight, locks onto one perfect target, and rips the air apart with a single, clean strike. The blade sank deep into the orc lord's neck, blood spraying across the air as Harris and Lesha stared up from below. The massive orc lord finally breaks, crashing forward as blood erupts across the ground. Harrison and Lesha quickly back off, staring as the monster slams into the dirt. The entire crew erupts into cheers. Russell hurls his axe up high while everyone celebrates the win, but Harris just stands there, staring. Looking completely drained, he fights to squeeze out a word, but his legs collapse under him, and he starts begging for help as he begins to drop. Lesha and Victoria shriek his name as he faceplants into the ground. Russell leans in, eyes widening as he realizes the guy is bone dry of mana, and he can't believe Harris was reckless enough to burn it all up. The crew pushes to get Harris back to the village so he can sleep it off, then splits up the luggage and vows to report the attack to the capital, completely oblivious to the mysterious girl lurks in the trees, staring them down. Then she clocks Harris as the magic herb apothecary, and the thought hits her like a spark as she whispers to herself that little crew of theirs looks like it's gonna cause a world of trouble later. She drops down hard, plants her feet on the dead monster, and snaps with fury at the chaos they've left, messing up her favorite orcs. But she decides she's done enough for today. Then she turns on her heels, heads back to the nearby mansion, and reports every single detail to her bosses. The glass slams onto the table with a sharp crack as a hand clenches it tight enough to steal the breath out of the room. Dahlon's gone completely feral over the newest sales reports. He demands to know why the numbers look so pathetic, then straight up asks if the staff is even trying to squeeze every last bit out of their patients anymore. One of the goons tries to talk his way out, swearing they're doing everything they can, but the real problem hits hard. The crowds just aren't showing up like they used to, and that's when the trouble starts to snowball. It cranks Dahlon's rage even higher. He looks like he's one breath from popping a vein, snapping back that injuries and sickness don't just vanish on their own. Then a creepy chill flashes across his face as it all finally clicks. Harris, the guy he tossed out, is behind every bit of this trouble. And it turns out Harris has been cozying up to the Stockwell Company and the Steel Fang Group, and Dolence is sure he's sabotaging their deal with the Holy Institute on purpose. He hunches over his desk, whispering Harris' name again and again, fighting to make sense of how. Then it got worse. His staff dropped yet another bombshell, saying there are rumors Harris is actually trying to join forces with the Spadia family. Dahlon slumps there, completely shell-shocked by the name Spadia, and his mind instantly spirals back to that arrogant noble who wouldn't sign an exclusive deal with them. He snaps instantly, stands up mid-scream, yelling Harris's name, calling him a spoiled piece of trash and an eyesore who should have stayed buried in the dirt where he belongs. Dolan snaps his back to his men and doubts the Spadias would ever stoop to dealing with a nobody like Harris, but he won't risk it. He wants Harris dealt with fast before this spirals out of control. He yanks his glasses into place and grimaces into this nasty grin, muttering that Harris is a total brat. Then he snaps, swears on the spot, and declares he'll crush the guy for good. A few days later, the mood finally lifts. Harris is back up and moving outside his place, gritting his teeth as he groans, and stretches his arm into the blazing morning sun. He flexes a little, feeling like his old self again, and tells the crew he's finally back to full power. Then he leans in to thank them, insisting those magic herbs did the trick and snapped him back to normal, even as guilt hits him for the trouble they went through. Victoria doesn't let him skate by. She crowds right into his space, eyes blazing, and tells him in dead serious words, never, ever pull another reckless stunt like that again. With Chief Russell watching, Jurek scans the herbs they hauled in and asks if this is the right batch. Thankfully, she says they followed Harris's notes. Victoria crowds in and studies them closely, trying to figure out whether all she needs to do is grind them into paste. Victoria keeps pushing forward, spilling that she's overwhelmed, like she's trying to invent a whole new recipe on the fly. And even though she trusts Harris and his work, brewing that kind of potion while everything's under pressure was just more than she could handle. Harris just shrugs it off, grinning like he's won, and holds up a flask as he talks about his wild dream, building a world where anyone can whip up their own medicine, and he can't believe the first real step comes so fast. He blurts out that he's just thrilled his theory works for regular people too. Then Victoria snaps again, yelling at him from the top of her lungs. She's cool with the medicine working, but she's not okay with the fact that he nearly got himself killed. The mood flips in an instant. Jurek snaps her eyes to something outside the window. She drags Harris over and blurts that she heard someone screaming and weapons smashing just beyond the village walls, and before you can blink, everyone's on full high alert. Jurek doesn't waste a beat. She snaps that this feels like real trouble, tells Harris she's leaving first, and orders him to watch the magic herbs while. Harris shouts that he's got it, swearing he'll catch up as fast as he can, while Victoria and Leisha stare as the cat girl dashes off into the distance, leaving the cat girl behind. Bolting ahead, he left the rest of the group scrambling and sprinted right past a visibly baffled Russell. The chief breaks into a sprint too, demanding what's driving the panic, while Harris shouts at him as they both hammer toward the village gates. He tells you Jurek heard someone screaming clear outside the village, and before anyone can stop her, she's already sprinted ahead to check it out. Russell can't wrap his head around it. How on earth does that girl hear everything? Then they crest a hill, and Victoria spots the madness, firing off, "Is that the place?" When they finally arrive, Jurek is already standing over the bandits she just crushed. Right as the rest of the crew finally barrels into the ambush scene, Harris shouts to Jurek, demanding to know what they're up against. Jurek says they've already wiped out the dozen bandits on this side of the road. Then Harris snaps his attention to a bruised guard near the carriage, asking if they were the ones attacked, and whether they noticed the blood pours from the man's wounds, and Harris barrels over with his gear, snapping, "Don't move, let me see what you've got." The battered guard staggers up, looks wrecked, and blurts out an apology for dropping his guard. Then he gasps, "Harris, are you really a healer?" Harris snaps his kit together, admits he's not some healer, then tells the guy to chill, because the treatment is all on him. He rips out a special plant and slams it onto the wound. Wham! A blinding flash erupts, and everyone freezes in pure shock. The guard is utterly stunned by what he's feeling. This is no ordinary healing magic, and panic crashes in as he realizes something is seriously wrong. Harris leans in and tells him he's treating people with magical herbs. This new medicine hits fast, and the results are so quick they practically shout the truth. Right as Harris wraps up, a voice inside the carriage throws out "magical herbs," repeating the words like they've been desperate to hear them all along. A noble girl in a glittering dress hops out of the carriage, leaning in for a closer look at the man who's been guarding her. The guard snaps, calling her Lady Emma as she strides over, and she turns to Harris, asking if he's the famous magic herbalist everyone's been whispering about. Harris gets thrown off for a second by the stare, then quickly snaps back. Yeah, he's exactly the guy she's been hunting for. Emma's face lights up with pure relief, and she grabs onto him, saying she's finally found him, and then she spills that her family needs his help. Emma locks eyes with him and asks if he'll join her and Harris in making a pact, and Harris is just standing there completely frozen. He's drenched in sweat while she grips his hand, lifting her face to him with those wide, hopeful eyes, begging him to finally answer. Behind them, the whole crew just stares as the scene blows up in real time. Leisha and Jurek look completely baffled, while Victoria is practically face-planting from sheer embarrassment. A massive collective scream erupts out of nowhere, blasting across the entire village. That's a lot to swallow, especially when Harris is just an everyday guy, kicked out of the Renard Holy Institute because the whole place was local-level corrupt. So he ended up getting shoved around everywhere, until he finally moved out to the remote village of Delas, where the people he'd helped before, like Lord Bailey, actually made sure he had a place to call home. And even the grumpy village chief, after moving there, he's been getting hit with all these wild new run-ins and heartwarming reunions, like with Victoria, Jurek, and of course Leisha. He even pulled off the impossible, saving the village from a brutal orc invasion and ending the endless trouble they'd been stuck in. After everything, he finally snapped into place. He would devote his life to spreading magic herb medicine everywhere, proving there was a better way to heal without the corrupt church poisoning the whole world. Right when he was about to make that life-shattering choice, everything blew up. Emma's still standing there, clutching his hands, begging him one last time to form a pact with her, and it leaves Harris so stunned he can't even speak. Emma clears her throat and warns him that her choice of words could spark a massive misunderstanding, especially since. Emma clocks how it sounded and snaps into an instant apology to clear up the confusion. She steps up, introduces herself as Aspadia, and lays it out plain. She's hiring Harris as her exclusive magic herbalist. Harris just stands frozen in disbelief, struggling to even get out that he's an exclusive hire. The crew piles into their carriages and rattles down the road, chatting as they go. The knight lays it all out. Our old healer is retiring, and we've been panicking ever since, begging for a replacement. Harris finally snaps the pieces into place, and it hits him. This is why they trekked all this way to find him. The knight nodded and admitted he'd heard the rumors too, that the people in Delos village were saying he lived nearby. Emma says it's time to head straight to the local lords at the Antruth estate next, and the knight snaps that they'd better follow every proper rule, because this is basically poaching a worker from right here. Under the cover of night, the knight bows in shame and finally confesses he was the only guard on duty because they were moving in secret when the bandits struck. During the trip, the horses panicked, reared up, and bolted, yet Lord Rome barely had time to save the day by getting a fresh carriage ready for them. They finally make it to the. Inside the massive Antruth residence, a fancy voice asks Lady Risara how she's been feeling lately. Then, Risara flashes a small laugh and reminds everyone, I got checked just the other day, then smiles wider, because honestly, she's doing great since then. Harris's face lights up at the good news, and he shoves the medicine into her hands, telling her to take one packet every morning and every night, no excuses. Russell's jaw drops in pure disbelief, blurting that this is another magic herb potion, because he can't wrap his head around the fact it heals diseases, not just scraped-up wounds. But Harris just smirks and says, nah, this is even better, then leans in and tells him that anyone can make it, no magic or special gift required. Even though Harris is crushing it, he admits his research is only halfway there, still hunting for a cure for diseases everyone swears can't be fixed. There's still a mountain to climb, like cracking how to grow herbs packed with more magic power, and Harris looks wiped out just from picturing all the fights ahead. Lord Bailey leans in and tells Harris he's counting on him for what's next, then whips around to Russell and praises the stack of solid friends he's been making lately. Russell watches Harris walk off, and at first he swore the man was just another corrupt healer from the Holy Institute, but now he's seeing the truth and it's crystal clear. Russell spirals into excitement and tells Harris he's all in on his dream, because the moment he hears about a world where magic herbs can rescue everyone, he's completely hooked. And he yanks Harris right over to Lord Bailey, while everyone else stands there, staring at the two of them. Rome steps forward and snaps, I'm the second-generation head of the Stockwell Company, then tells them how Harris once saved his life when he was a kid, and that's why his entire mission is to spread magic herbs to the ends of the world. Then Jurek from the Steel Fangs steps up and introduces herself with a bright smile, telling everyone it's an honor to meet them, and that she's locked in on repaying the debt she owes Harris. Harris glances at his tiny companion and asks Leisha, can you say hello to the group too? So a little girl introduces herself as Leisha and claims she helps Harris grow every herb. She starts out laid back, then suddenly tries to switch into this ultra-formal, polite mode. Risara beams when she tells everyone just how thrilled she is that Harris has stumbled onto such an awesome crew of friends. Lord Bailey spots a fresh arrival, scans the crowd, and points his attention at the little one, asking who they are, but the moment he clocks who it is, he rushes over and greets Lady Emma. She bows with perfect manners, saying she's thrilled the lord's in good health and that she's bylaid. Bailey grins and says she trekked all this way just to reach this frontier. Then Harris snaps that she's probably only here because of him. Emma grins at Lord Bailey, praises him for catching on so fast, and cuts right to the point so she won't waste a second, and she starts spilling that her family's personal healer is missing, and that's a massive disaster for the Spade family because actually they rule a dukedom in the Novel Kingdom, such top-tier nobles that the whole region practically drops to the ground just hearing their name. Even noble families like the Intruse swear the Spades are untouchable, but Lord Bailey spots the one fatal problem. They can't move a muscle until they know what Harris wants, so he swings the spotlight to the young healer and demands his thoughts. Harris' eyes lock in with pure determination. He admits he's honored by the massive offer, then tells them point-blank that he can't take it. The group watches as Bailey smirks and lays it out. If you become an exclusive healer for a duke, you basically lock in an easy life. He's convinced it's the perfect deal. And Harris admits it all feels like a dream offer, so he But he clenches his fist and snaps that he can't keep leaning on everyone else's kindness. He glances over his work, and a surge of pride hits. Thanks to everyone's help, magic herbs finally flourish in Delos village. Harris can't stop thinking about it. Rome and the others already pulled off magic herb medicine, and now mass production finally feels within reach and his. His ultimate dream is to build a world where not one patient gets left behind. Every single person gets saved, no exceptions. So he lays it out. His next huge mission is brewing even stronger medicine, and he's hunting rare magic herbs no one has ever even found. He blurts out the truth, then quickly apologizes to Emma, because if he becomes her family's exclusive partner, he won't be able to call his own shots anymore. So he drops into a deep bow to the nobles, and with a firm shake of his head, officially rejects their massive offer. Lord Bailey locks eyes with him for a moment, then finally snaps. He understands exactly why Harris got kicked out of the Holy Institute. He flails his hands, insisting the temple only knows how to kiss up to the duchy, and that's exactly why a genuine guy like Harris was never going to belong with them. Emma tells them her father, Arnold, is even tougher. He'll roast anyone who forgets what dignity means, so he swore he'd never sign a deal with the Holy Temple, and the guys can't help but grin because he sounds like a straight-up demon. Harris lets out an awkward laugh and blurts out Director Dolan's name, claiming he can practically see the guy shamelessly kissing up to every noble just so he can climb higher. But Lord Arnold is the total opposite. He's pure integrity, and he stands firm behind the Spadia family's proud white lily crest. Emma shoots him a gentle look and tells him she totally understands. She can literally feel the love and support everyone's throwing his way. She gives Lord Bailey, Lady Rosara, and even Leisha their moment, making it crystal clear that they're the ones who genuinely care about him. For one breath, the whole room freezes. Everyone locks eyes, and you can practically see them realizing just how much Harris has really done. Because of the tight bond he built with Rome and Zurich, and the hard-earned respect he's won from the ruthless village chief, Russell. Back in Delos village, everyone's convinced Harris has already woven himself into their daily lives, and they refuse to let him go. Emma shoots a glance at Bailey and admits, straight to his face, that even if her father Arnold has a totally different plan, she thinks using their family's power to bully Harris into joining them would be a total jerk move, one that would wreck their reputation, so she's convinced her dad will finally get it. They all freeze in the huge hall for a beat, letting the weight of that choice slam into their bones. Harris starts getting all jittery and blurts that maybe he should just show up as one of his usual stops. No exclusivity, just a normal visit instead. Emma instantly snatches his hands, leans right into his face and demands, so he's really serious about that, right? Emma scans the group, grins, and says she's 100% in no doubt if her family back home is okay with it. She then swears up and down that Harris is the kind of guy everyone can trust, especially because his skills with magical herbs are absolutely legit. Emma smiles and promises she'll send someone familiar if she ever needs backup, and Harris gets so pumped he swears he'll be there the moment she calls to help. While the rest of the crew just stands there, they finally chill out, because the chaos is settled now. Victoria whips her eyes across the room, stunned by how insanely talented everyone is, and it hits her hard. She wants to be useful too, but she just can't find the right way. But then doubt crashes in. She starts believing she's got zero business sense, zero fighting skills, and not a single special power like the others. Harris steps up with fierce determination, telling everyone it means the world to finally be seen, for his research, for his friends, and for who he really is, then turns to Emma and says her support is a massive relief. And Emma just freezes in shock, finally getting it. He never wanted much at all. He only wanted her to notice his hard work. Rome can't stop thinking about it. Just imagine the pressure on their reputation when the Spadia family shows up in person for a visit like this, and it's his daughter. Emma lights up with a huge smile, blurts that she'll keep coming back to visit as much as she wants, and that instantly makes Bailey break into a cold sweat, because he's trying to explain that if they want the public to swallow it, they should call it official patronage. Emma snaps everyone's attention by calling them the Harris Group, and it absolutely floors Harris, who didn't see it coming at all. Then she keeps going, telling the entire room they've got to team up to build the world Harris is dreaming of. The whole crew erupts into a massive cheer, and even though Bailey thinks the entire thing is totally ridiculous, he still shoots his fist up and joins the hype anyway. The whole room crackles with energy as they celebrate side by side, and even the folks who never talk at all are finally caught up in it, while Lady Rosara watches from her bed. Rosara hears those familiar footsteps coming for the door, and she just breaks into a smile, laughing to herself because that troublesome little troublemaker finally made it home. Everyone else hears her, freezes, and immediately scrambles to guess who she's talking about, and then, in the blink of an eye, it all clicks. Suddenly, the door blasts open, and Victoria Andrews storms into the room screaming at the top of her lungs that she's back. Everyone's frozen stiff, just staring. Then the sudden entrance of the Antruth daughter hits, and the whole room erupts in shock. Harris scrambles to shatter the awkward silence, blurting that it's been ages and he's just relieved she's okay. But Victoria doesn't blink back. She stares at him like he's a ghost. She's so stunned to find him in her house that her mouth just won't work. She stands there, stuttering, while her mind spins out of control. Emma just smiles through the chaos and strolls up to Victoria with a casual greeting, like nothing at all is going down. Victoria's voice rips through the air as she screams, demanding to know why Harris and Emma are at her house together. The shock hits so hard her brain basically shuts off for more than 4 minutes, while everyone else just freezes in place, staring as she spirals. Harris and the others scramble to catch her attention because she's just standing there, frozen in place, hands slammed over her face. She finally snaps back to reality, straightens her collar in a rush, and locks in because she's done floating. Victoria dips into a deep bow, fires off a heartfelt apology, and admits she completely blacked out for a second, then finally greets Harris properly after all this time. She blurts out, "I'm sorry, I really messed up making a scene in front of everyone." Then, she steps forward and introduces herself with full formality, then tells them she's enrolled right now at Noel Royal Academy. Victoria laughs and admits she got lucky with a natural talent for healing magic, but she's not coasting. She's grinding every day to become a real, professional healer. From the bed, Rosara blurts out that Victoria has been looking up to Harris ever since the day he saved her life. Victoria totally loses it, face blazing red. She storms into her mom and yells at her for spilling a secret she was told to keep under wraps. Emma can't believe anyone from her own family actually dragged themselves out to this remote estate, especially when Lord Bailey suddenly storms in, grabs her attention, and demands to know if she's here just to scout Harris. Lord Bailey kills that idea fast, and Emma jumps in. Since they couldn't strike a deal, she was ready to leave, leaving Victoria staring around like she's completely clueless. Bailey leans in and asks Harris if he's truly ready to reject her, insisting that working for a ducal house would basically lock in his future. But Harris digs in and tells them, straight up, "We already lined up a deal for house calls, so I won't get trapped in some exclusive contract." The second Victoria hears the news, she explodes with excitement, screaming that the whole Antruth family is about to be ridiculously grateful for the help. Emma starts laying it all out, and it slams right into Victoria, so hard she blurts out this strange little noise before she can even react. Emma admits they've barely spent any time together at the academy, and now she's pushing for this chance to finally get to know each other. She blindsides Victoria with a sweet nickname, then straight up asks, right there, if the two of them can be friends. Harris finishes his explanation, and then Emma steps in, officially thanking him and Victoria for everything the Spadia family has been through, and Victoria starts panicking, blurting out that there's no way she can be friends with someone as famous and high-class as Emma, while Emma just stares at her gloves like she's completely unreadable. Harris snaps his gaze to the girl's hand, asks if it's some kind of magic burn, and mutters that it's probably just from her going too hard in training lately, because the truth is starting to show. Emma jumps in and says chasing a goal with pure dedication is impressive, no matter who you are. Then she asks to personally take a look at the injury. She'd be genuinely thrilled to help someone who works this hard, so she reaches out, tells Victoria she'd be honored if they could just hold hands for a second, and that's when. Which completely blows Victoria away. She turns beet red, blurts out she'd love to, swears the pleasure is all hers, and stares at the offer like she's totally starstruck as. Right when they finally seal the deal with a handshake, Harris tells Victoria he loves her drive, but then he snaps that she has to stop bulldozing her body past its breaking point. And just like that, everyone storms toward the front gates, where the carriage is already waiting to whisk the guests back home. Harris waves them away and tells Emma, "Make sure you send word if anything else medical comes up that needs my attention," as she leans out the window to shout her thanks, saying her dad's going to be over the moon now that they finally won't have to rely on the Holy Institute anymore, which gets Lord Bailey's mind racing. He stares as they walk off, then shoots a sharp question. Does Emma have some personal vendetta against the Institute? Deciding she's probably just sick of how they've been acting since new leadership took over, and everything spiraled downhill fast. Grasm spins back to the old days and swears everything was better under the previous director, because Harris and Sergestev personally treated him. He keeps going, saying that even back then, when Harris' mana was limited, his grind as an assistant was the one thing that truly screamed for attention, and somehow that's exactly what caught Lady Emma's eye. Victoria stared in pure wonder, her eyes sparkling like a kid, hanging on every word about a legendary hero. Grasm tells her that's exactly why Emma can't stand the Holy Institute's selfish ways, how they abuse their healing powers, and somehow that lands as shocking news on Harris. Victoria pops her head out and tells Grasm to end it, and with a nod the knight calls out that they're all packing up and heading out. Victoria swears she can feel Emma's elegance vibrating through the carriage walls, and suddenly Harris and the others are stuck there, staring, dying to know what kind of aura she even means. Suddenly, Victoria jolts. She realizes she almost forgot something vital. She yanks out a sealed envelope and tells Harris, "The headmaster sent this. He had something specific he needed to deliver to you." As she passes it to him, she blurts the only thing she's sure of, that it's supposed to be insanely helpful for his medical research. Harris grips the letter and stares at it like it's about to reveal a secret, then swears he'll stop by and pay his respects once everything at the village is finally settled. Victoria snaps and calls out to Harris, right as he's seconds away from doing it, catching him completely off guard. She's about to set off, and she tells him she's been grinding herself to the bone to become a top-tier healer, because deep down, her dream is to fuse that magic with herbal medicine and save as many lives as she possibly can. The girl digs deeper, leaning in close and telling him that's exactly why she has to ask him for a massive favor, leaving Harris. He just stood there shell-shocked as Victoria hit him with the offer, right then and there, to take her on as his apprentice in herbal medicine. She tells everyone she's hunting for the real, hidden power in herb stuff, far past anything normal healing magic could ever touch, while Emma watches from the side, stunned as she. Harris stood there perfectly still with his back turned, and Victoria's nerves snapped. She blurted his name again, desperate for any sign of what was coming next. Harris smirks to himself when Apprentice hits, because it yanks him right back to being a little kid, screaming at his old man to teach him everything, so he could finally start helping people. In his memory, his father snaps his gaze up from the medical gear and tells young Harris that taking on an apprentice is a huge ask, especially when he feels like he's still figuring himself out. Then he pats Harris's head and tells him, "If you're serious about building a new future for medicine, we'll walk that road together," and that memory still haunts him. Harris gets hit hard by the blow and he vows, this time he'll nail it. Then he turns to Victoria, who fires back instantly, already braced for whatever he throws at her next. Harris locks eyes with Victoria and tells her, if she's serious about medicinal herbs, her academy studies come first, and he knows that knowing that he's ready to stand beside her as an equal in this new age of medicine, swearing he'll teach her every last thing he knows. Victoria's eyes flare with pure excitement at the news, and she yells yes as she grabs Harris' hand, practically buzzing with excitement about working together. As her carriage lurches forward, Victoria throws both arms up, waving like crazy, and screams at him to come to the academy soon, because they'll be waiting for him. A few days fly by, and Harris keeps his head down in the house, poring over how coagulation grass and calming grass really work. As he scribbled down the exact recipes for stuff like crimson lizard disease and wolfbite disease, he pushed through until he finally slammed shut the whole guide. He storms over to the group with the finished notebook in hand and turns to Rome, begging for a second opinion. He needs to be 100% sure the info is. Rome scans it, grins, and declares, it's perfect, because if anyone can get it, the guild can absolutely smash the big-scale production now. With the whole team pitching in, they finally kick the production of those magic herb potions into gear for real. The whole operation kicks off the moment the folks of Delos Village step up and start cultivating every last magic herb. While they're out farming, the Stockwell Company crew rushes in and takes over every single processing task. Even the adventurers jump in, heaving those heavy crates so everything stays on schedule. Village Chief Russell slaps Harris hard on the shoulder and tells him to go, promising the village is in his hands. Harris pumps his fist and declares he's officially sprinting to the academy, totally ready to take on the next huge step. The moment they hit the road, Harris thanks Rome for getting the carriage ready, but that's just the start of what he's truly grateful for. He makes a point to thank her for getting Leisha those brand new clothes. Rome shrugs like it's nothing, tells Leisha she looks amazing, and right there the little girl bursts into giggles, pure joy spilling out. Inside the carriage, Harris can't shake the thought, why is Rome, a big-shot company rep, riding with them like this? So Rome just flashes a smile and tells him, it's okay, because she's got a whole crew of trusted people back in the village handling everything. Rome fixes her new glasses and blurts that she refuses to miss a single business deal. Then Harris leans in like, all right, what's with that look? And leans out of the carriage window, realizing they've finally screeched to a stop. The entire crew just stands there, staring at the Noel Royal Academy in front of them. This place is absolutely gigantic, and they're all stuck for a second like, no way. They break into motion across the bright courtyard, passing the towering fountain, and head straight for the main entrance. Jurek's jaw drops as she stares all around the school, and Harris leans in like, "So, is this your first time seeing an academy?" Victoria casually tells Jurek she survived her share of rough adventure towns and dungeon horrors, then watches his guard drop as he realizes this fancy place is a welcome change of pace. Harris fires off a warning to stay sharp so nobody wanders off, then he locks eyes with Leisha and orders her to stick right by his side. And the little girl yells, "I got it," while Rome needles Harris for acting like a stressed-out teacher already. Inside one of the academy windows, an old man leans in and spots them landing, shouting that Harris is the demon herbalist and, muttering under his breath, he's convinced Harris is about to turn something to good use any second now. Inside the school, a glowing egg hums on a table like it's alive, and a voice keeps hinting that it'll fuel a vision for the world, but no one can tell what's about to crack open from within. Back outside, Victoria bursts into bright smiles and throws her arms wide to welcome everyone. She's practically vibrating with excitement as she blurts out that they've been waiting for the group to finally arrive. Harris thanks her for making the time to meet them like this, and the rest of the crew just drinks in the view as they start crossing the academy grounds. Harris can't believe it. This is the very first time Leisha and Jurek have ever set foot inside an academy. Victoria starts flexing the place, claiming they've got it all, from fancy high-end gardens to full-blown arenas where the students can train hard. Lesha and Jurek stare in total awe, but Victoria cuts in, "You can explore later. Right now, we've got one job: get everyone to the headmaster's office." As they stride through those giant hallways, Harris can't shake it. This place always feels monstrously huge, and no matter how many times he comes back, it still hits him like a tidal wave every single time. Victoria stays locked in as the tour guide, spinning the story that the school yanks students from every corner of the kingdom, training both in magic fighting and everyday studies. She says it's all because the academy only lets in the absolute best, and that's why the whole vibe feels totally unlike anywhere else. Rome takes in the stunning surroundings and nods. If the students are truly elite, then the school has to look just as flawless. Victoria bursts through the halls, grinning as she yells at everyone to follow her, because what they're about to see is coming fast. They slam on the brakes right before these towering doors. Harris freezes, because he's been here before, but something about the air feels different, like it's warning him. Now that entrance hits different, he feels a wild wave of pressure blasting from inside the room, and it's just. Right as they freeze there, a voice cuts in from the other side, telling them, "Come on in." Inside, the academy's top brass are waiting, Headmaster Milo and Vice Headmaster Norman. Milo greets them all, then singles out Harris and cheers, calling him the magic herb pharmacist. Harris snaps into a polite bow, murmurs, "It's been ages," then rushes out an apology for keeping everyone waiting for that formal greeting. Milo tells him to chill, saying he knows just how brutal it got for Harris after he got thrown out of the Holy Academy. Then he leans in and says he even heard about the massive invitation Harris got from the prestigious Spadia family, and it sounds absolutely huge. Harris straight up admits it's true, then reveals the twist: he decided to shut that offer down instead. Milo clocks what Harris just did and thinks, if he shot down the offer, he'd probably turn his nose up at this academy invite too. Harris blurts out an apology to the headmaster, admitting the school is awesome, but he's got to carve out his own path. Milo stares out the window and blurts that he's gotta be the guy running around town, hunting herbs and helping everyone. Norman snaps that it's time to move, and Harris just nods, confirming that's exactly what he's been doing. Victoria cuts in and asks Harris straight up if he's read her letter yet. He admits he has, and he figures it's her way of lining him up with fresh supplies for his research. Headmaster Milo grunts to himself for a beat, then barks, "Norman, come here," to pull out something special. The whole crew leans in and spots a weird, patterned egg tucked in a box, and Harris freezes, totally blindsided, staring at it like it just appeared out of nowhere. Norman blurts out that it's not just any egg, it's a familiar's egg, and he's almost certain Harris's kind of skills are exactly what it's going to unlock. Harris stares at the egg, and the thought hits him: what if he finally lands a brand new familiar? It drags his thoughts straight to Leisha, born from a magic herb, who's already saved him again and again with her powers and her kindness. He thinks, if my new partner can back me up the same way she does, I'd be insanely lucky to have someone like that around. Norman points out that the egg could crack open any second, but the contract papers are gonna take forever, so he tells Harris to dash to the academy and check things out while they wait. Harris says it's been forever since they stepped into the academy, and you can practically feel the whole group buzzing because everyone's dying to get back to that place. The group strides through the doors into the main hall, but Harris freezes cold the moment he spots a massive crowd waiting. Before anyone can catch their breath, students instantly swarm them. Harris gets mobbed for herb lessons, Rome is hunted for shop talk, Jurek is begged for a spar, and even Leisha gets pulled into it when some girls ask her to join their tea party just because she's so darn cute. Harris gets completely blindsided by the sudden noise, while Victoria just stands there, stunned, like, why is the school going off the rails all of a sudden, until she suddenly remembers she told everyone about how Harris saved the day at her parents' house, and bam, her tale turned him into a local celebrity, leaving. Victoria's guilt hits hard as she realizes she totally caused a scene, so she blurts out an apology, and Harris just laughs it off like, yeah, whatever, because at this point there's no turning back. Rome insists he's genuinely happy to talk, because these students could be tomorrow's customers. Meanwhile, Jurek and Leisha are itching to spar and just hang out. Harris nods and grins, telling the students he can't wait to show them a few tricks with magic herbs, right as Victoria bursts in and yells that her classes are done for the day. No way she's missing the action. The whole crew gets fired up and decides to turn the day into one massive joint training session for everyone. The group dives straight into it. Harris drops to his knees in the grass, showing the students exactly how to handle rare magic herbs. Nearby, Jurek snatches a wild flip over a student mid-spar, while Leisha lounges at the tea party, just kicking back like she's got all the time in the world. One student stares at Rome with pure respect, thanks him, and vows to grow his family shop so it can trade with him. Rome flashes a grin and tells the kid he's genuinely stoked for it, then pushes him to keep going, and just when it seems like things can't get any better. Then the girl's sparring with Jurek skids to a stop, gasping. She can't even get close to landing a single hit. Jurek grabs her hand, praises her razor-sharp swordplay, then warns her she'll have to rethink her tactics if she wants to take down opponents who move faster. At the tea table, the students break into grateful smiles and thank Lesha for such a chill, relaxed time, only for her to laugh and say the joy was all hers. As the day fades out, a student leans in and tells Harris, "I'm coming back after graduation, for more magic herb lessons, no doubt." Harris flashes a confident nod and promises he'll be right there when that moment finally hits, so he's saying, "I'll be waiting," while. As the students stare in stunned silence, it hits them. Harris and his crew aren't just ahead, they're playing on a whole other level. Victoria nods to herself, thinking her noble training is fine, until she realizes real-world combat skills hit like a completely different beast. Harris speaks up and tells everyone that magic herbs aren't just about skill, they're perfect for grinding your basic stamina. Then Victoria's eyes widen as he flips. He flipped through his notes, laying out how certain herbs could kick blood flow into gear and make muscles bounce back way faster than usual. He says if you blend these with regular training, you'll forge a way stronger body, even if the herbs were only meant to heal. Harris thrusts his research notes into Victoria's hands and tells her he's handing them over to her, so hard she can only stare, stunned, wondering if he's really serious. He blurts out the truth, but slaps in a quick reminder first. Her normal schoolwork still has to be her top priority. Victoria clutches the book to her chest, grinning so wide it's almost unbelievable, and swears she'll work her hardest to blow past every one of his expectations. Jurek throws Victoria a fist bump and tells her they've got to spar again next time, and Victoria's completely, absolutely in. Right then, the vice headmaster strides in, announcing that the contract is ready, and Harris and Lesha fall in step behind him as he leads them to the office. Then out of nowhere, a voice yells Harris. From behind, he slams to a stop and whips around to find the source. A bunch of students swarm around Harris to thank him for his mind-blowing lecture on magic herbs, and they even beg him to come back and teach them again. Harris nods and jumps in. He's all for it, and he's dead set on making every single person understand just how brutally powerful magic plants can be. As the kids head out, the vice headmaster keeps watching them disappear, and quietly thinks a serious botany department might finally become real sooner than anyone expects. The headmaster takes one look and goes, "Wow, today's results are insane," and Norman turns to Harris like, "Seriously, thanks for the productive session." Milo can't stop raving about how awesome it feels to see everyone so pumped, saying it's honestly a massive win for him just watching them lose their minds with excitement. He catches himself rambling, shuts it down, and tells Harris, "All right, time to tap the egg and kick my magic into gear." Harris shoots his hand out, nerves spiking as he realizes his magic reserves are running dangerously low for a familiar contract. Then he remembers how the village had saved him last time, and the The headmaster clocks his hesitation, and before he can stall, he offers to jump in with a boost of extra mana, right when everything suddenly shifts, because then Lesha strides right up, flashes a huge smile, and grabs his hand like, "I'm with you, let's do this." Harris glances back and instantly gets it. She's here to help him, so he shoots her a quick, grateful nod, and they press forward side by side. Lesha snatches Harris' hand, eyes blazing, and yells that it's contract time, so they better go all out and pour everything they've got into it. Both of them pour everything into that egg, and boom, a blinding burst of light floods the whole room as the magic finally locks in. Macdi and the others lean in hard as the egg finally starts to break apart, and she bursts out that the shell is cracking at last. And the light blasts brighter and brighter as the egg starts to crack wide open, right there in front of their eyes. As the lights begin to fade, Harris snaps his hand up to his eyes, and then it hits him. This is it, the moment they've been chasing, and he finally sees a tiny, round owl-like chick sits there, and everyone's like, "Wait, are we really getting this little one as our new familiar?" The whole crew packs in around the little guy perched on his cushion, while Victoria and Jurek still can't wrap their heads around it, because that tiny bird is actually a magical familiar. Milo strides in, grins, and says the birth went off without a hitch. Then he swears it's because Harris and Leisha team up so perfectly. Harris can't stop thinking about how their combined power pulled this off. Then he grins and jokes that this basically makes Leisha the bird's big sister. Lesha absolutely adores the idea. Her face lights up, eyes shining, because she can't wait to officially become the big sister to the new little guy. Leisha freezes for a split second when Harris suggests she play the big sister role. Then her whole heart ignites. She's pumped up and promises she'll do her best while the little bird chirps along. Norman thrusts the manual into everyone's hands, explaining that as long as the little guy keeps gulping down food and mana from the village, everything's going to stay perfectly fine. Harris thanks them for everything, then realizes, before they do a single other thing, that the little bird needs a name right now. He leans in and explains it. Naming your familiar isn't just a cute tradition. It's the big ritual that seals the bird and owner bond as official. Jurek suddenly speaks up and says her old swordmaster was named Nash, then points out that the bird's features look exactly like. Victoria's jaw drops. She blurts out if he's talking about that legendary Nash deal from the Steel Fang clan, the one they call the Falcon Sword. They admit it straight up. That legendary clan reputation would have never survived if Hero hadn't forged it all back in the day. Harris swears he's heard every tale about that warrior's courage, then leans toward the bird and tells it he's praying it grows up just as solid and dependable. He drops to one knee, officially naming the kid Nash, then turns to the bird and asks how it feels to wear its new identity. The bird chirps up a storm at its new master, and Victoria practically lets out a breath of relief. She's thrilled the little guy has taken to him so fast. Harris leans in and tells Nash, "From here on out, I'm counting on you," while Leisha swoops in to give the kid a warm welcome, because now that the bond's official, the bird is officially a magic herbalist's familiar. Headmaster Milo leans in and tells Hera, "We're heading back to the village soon, so put the little guy to work now." But Harris can't help but side-eye it, because Nash was literally just born, and he's so tiny right now he can't possibly do anything yet. Norman just shrugs it off and grins, claiming the Academy's familiars are on a whole different level, and then he swears the bird will be ready to help before he even realizes it. Harris just touched that magic stone on the bird's forehead and pour in a little mana, easy, like breathing, though Harris is still not totally convinced this magic thing is real. The moment he tries it, a blinding flash rips through the air, and Nash swells into a colossal bird that looms over everyone in the room. Lesha can't believe what she's seeing, and Victoria has to admit it. Sure, her guild has bird familiars too, but she's never seen one this insane, this high-level, or this breathtaking. Norman tells Harris that once they're done traveling, all he has to do is stroke the stone, no mana needed to shrink him again, then warns him to be careful and not touch it while they're flying. As Norman races off to prep a riding saddle for the bird, Milo drags Harris aside and hits him with a far more serious talk. When Harris asks if anyone's heard what the Holy Academy has been up to lately, he practically knows on the spot it all traces back to Director Dolan. Harris steps into the headmaster's office and admits, "Not one word has come from my old workplace since they threw me out that day." Milo snaps in and tells him that ever since the sanctuary kicked him out, groups are dropping their contracts with them left and right. Norman jumps in next, warning Harris to stay razor careful, because once that director loses his temper, you never know what he'll do. The headmaster leans in and tells Harris, "When the pressure hits, it's the ones who truly trust you who will show up, no questions asked, to back you to the end." Victoria and Jurek immediately rush in, shove Harris aside, and demand he leave the Holy Academy, because their little schemes don't scare them at all. Then Jurek even swears he'll cut down anyone who dares make a move. Victoria declares she's jumping in too, and little Leisha wastes no time making it crystal clear. She's not falling behind for a second. Harris whips his gaze across his friends and that massive bird Nash, then just stands there, straight up thanking everyone for backing him like this. Milo grins and tells Harris he's got it made, because with a crew like that, nothing, not even the biggest disaster, will ever be too much to handle. The old man finally admits it. He's got huge hopes for the world Harris is forging with his magic herb research. Harris whips around and screams that he'll never let him down, and the whole crew piles onto Nash's back, charging out to prove that promise true. The giant bird explodes upward, lifting the entire crew high over the academy grounds as their journey back to the village finally kicks off. Milo and Norman stand shoulder to shoulder as they watch Harris stride off with the girls, and Milo leans in to tell him, "You've got an amazing crew, real believers who back you all the way." And as Nash rockets into the sky, the headmaster chimes in that the whole academy is backing him too, so the students crane their necks, eyes locked on the massive bird as it vanishes into the clouds while Harris gapes in disbelief at the academy shrinking fast in the distance, Leisha is straight up losing her mind, cheering about how high they are, But Victoria is totally freaking out. She's trembling and sure that if she slips from this height, she'll splatter into a pancake on the ground. Jurek tries to play it cool and tells Victoria she'll be fine if she just spreads out the impact when she lands, but that advice only makes Victoria panic even harder, so Nash just keeps plummeting through the sky, straight up chaining dive after dive, because once you hear what Jurek said, you know that only a full-on superpowered adventurer could ever pull off something that wild. Back in Delos Village, Chief Russell paces, wondering if Harris and the others even reached the academy yet. Someone shrugs and says the walk is so brutal they won't be back for days. Then bam, a massive shadow slams across the ground, and both of them freeze mid-step, staring up as Russell scrambles to figure out what in the world is going on. Leisha starts screaming, "I'm finally home," the second Nash touches down, and Harris beams like he's won the lottery, while Victoria is still sobbing from that insane flight. The village falls into eerie silence, and that's how this entire academy trip finally comes to a close. Russell keeps nodding, while Harris clocks it instantly. The village has been buzzing like crazy lately. Just as the chief talks about being lively, a visitor shows up the second they step out for the academy, and Harris is so shocked someone came hunting for them that he starts to. Harris can't believe his eyes when Grasm shows up out of nowhere, says hello like nothing happened, and mentions it's been a few days, but Harris barely listens, staring at the new guy instead, firing off questions about why they're here and who he is, and the younger guy swings in and introduces himself as Victor, a Royal Knights of Noel member, and Harris's jaw drops, because there's no way someone that high-ranked should have ended up this far out here. Victor blurts that Grasm just dropped some news, because he already knows the whole story about how Harris signed a contract to handle home medical visits for the Spadia family, and Harris starts to realize exactly where this is headed. Victor wastes no time. He goes straight to the point and asks if Harris will handle medical checkups for the Royal Knights too. He admits the Knights have basically hit their limit with the Renard Monastery lately, because the whole situation is starting to drag on. Because their jobs mean they're diving headfirst into danger every single day. But every time the Knights truly need the monastery, it flakes, yet Victor catches himself badmouthing Harris's old home, blinks, and shoots off an apology for being rude. But Harris just shrugs it off and tells him to stop stressing, because he's got zero trust in the academy these days, too. Victor thanks everyone for backing him in the village, says the magic herb is finally growing strong, and with Nash's wings, they'll deliver the meds to tonight's orders in a snap. He tells the group to hand the Knights' negotiations to him, and Chief Russell fires back with a heartfelt thank you as both sides finally lock it in with a solid handshake. Grasm thanks them again, but the moment he finishes, his smile fades, his face turns stone serious, and he tells them, "There's one more thing we have to talk about," and then Victor steps in, laying it all out. Turns out the knighthood just got secret orders from the people pulling the strings up at the top. The mission is to hunt down one insanely specific special flower, like it matters way more than any ordinary plant ever could. Victoria hears it and instantly scratches her head. Why would Harris get pulled into some flower search? Then it hits her, and the pieces start snapping into place. Victor leans in and tells Harris he's got an eye for the truth, then confirms it. This flower isn't just any plant, it's a rare magical herb. The moment Harris hears about a magic herb, his attention snaps to it like lightning, because if it's real, his own expertise could become the missing key, So Victor shoots off an apology, because the Knights still don't have many solid details yet. But then he drops the bomb. the Holy Institute is hunting that same flower too, and Harris can't wrap his head around it. His old workplace is right in the middle of all this already. Harris looks back on his days at the Holy Temple, convinced they didn't just boot him out for nothing. He swore it was because his herbal medicine was a threat to their healing magic business. And then, but Headmaster Milo had already told him, clear as day, to be insanely careful, because that old man could feel the temple cooking something shady behind the scenes. While the others huddle in anxious silence, Harris can't shake this thought. What if Demon Grass is hiding a secret link to the sanctuary he's still missing? It makes him stare at that mysterious flower, desperate to figure out what's really going on with it. The crew darts over the sky in a quick hop, blasting toward the snow-capped mountains of Woodbury Fief, an ice-cold, super-remote corner of the Noel Kingdom. Victor throws it out like a shocker. What should have taken days on the ground gets done in a single flight. Harris drops a friendly head pat on Nash, grinning at the big owl like, "You crushed it, thanks for the ride." As they finally reach Lake Jiaozu, Lisha can't contain her excitement. She blasts out, urging everyone to stare at that stunning, shimmering water. And Jurek points out they're standing at Dawnmoon Lake, one of the kingdom's 3 greatest mysteries, and the crystal-clear water plus endless forests make the whole place look like it was ripped straight out of a dream. Harris takes it all in, and the chaos clicks. This is exactly the kind of wild place where you'd hunt a rare magic plant like the demon grass flower. Harris can't stop thinking about how they trekked all the way to these brutal mountains, because the kingdom's knights demanded they hunt down the rare demon grass flower. But as everyone scrambles to get ready, Rome suddenly decides to stick behind a little longer, racing to set up every last supply before he finally links back up with the crew later. The crew rolls up to the Woodbury estate at the edge of the Noel Kingdom, and the moment the guards spot Victor, the gates swing open and they're waved right through. As they stride through those fancy halls, Harris keeps one thing locked in his mind. Lord Zeichel, the guy running this place, is actually tied to the powerful Spadia family as their brother-in-law. Because Zeichel is the Duke's close blood, Harris knows he has to stay on his absolute best behavior or risk wrecking everything, and that's when things kick. Which leads Victor to blurt out that he's always despised these fancy formal events. Then Harris just laughs and says he feels the exact same way. Victor tells him to just breathe, keep his cool, because nobody's really about to come at him and try to eat him or anything. Jurek keeps fiddling with her dagger, warns that anyone who tries something will get fish fillets, and Harris can only pray she keeps the peace. Then boom, Lord Sackle Woodbury finally arrives with a huge grin, rushing out an apology for keeping everyone waiting way too long to see him. Victor tells him it's totally no problem, then throws his hands up and thanks the Lord for making time for their group today. Lord Sackle shoots Harris a sharp look and demands, "So you're the weed pharmacist everyone's been buzzing about lately, huh?" And Harris flashes a respectful bow and properly introduces himself as the magic herb pharmacist, while Jurek and Victoria stand close by. Sackle just shrugs it off, then grins and says he's blown away. Harris had the nerve to walk out of the Renard Sanctuary and join forces with the Stockwells and the Spadia family. Harris just shrugs it off and claims he's pulled all this off only because everyone around him has been so damn kind lately. The Lord even reveals Harris has a rock-solid connection to the Royal Knights, and that's when Victor's confidence starts to crumble. As everyone slips into the sitting area, Sackle can't stop chuckling to himself, like he just stumbled onto something wildly fascinating. In his mind, he's already sizing this kid up like a jackpot, because he wants his share of that action, no doubt. Victor tries to act casual and tells Harris that too much success can spell trouble, but Victor slices him off the second he starts. Just then, a grizzled older knight in thick armor strides into the room, bows his head, and blurts out an apology for crashing their talk, before the sentence cuts him off mid-roar. He locks eyes with Harris and tells him flat out he's going to teach that kid a lesson for being so disrespectful. Sackle just laughs it off and brushes it away like it's nothing, then flips the topic and leans in, asking Harris if it's true he's coming to survey the plants in the Great Widmark Forest. And Harris nodded, and suddenly it was clear. The Knight Order's high command had really handed him a direct order to do exactly that. The Lord pauses for a beat, then decides it's a green light, officially granting Harris permission to march straight into the woods. He yanks out a round, patterned transit pass, flips it into Harris's hands and tells him, "Just show this to the guards, then you're through." Harris snatches the pass, thanks him fast, and gears up to roll out with the rest of his crew as, right when they're about to bolt, Sackle slams on the brakes, stopping him cold to ask the one last question he's been dying to throw out. He challenges Harris, asking why he ever tried to stand up to Director Dolence, because if he just kept his head down at the academy, he could have had a life of pure comfort and zero trouble. Harris glances aside for a second, and he finally admits Sekel's right. Life really does look effortless when you're on the outside. But he locks eyes with the Lord and flat out says those kind of prophets only exist because they wrap patience around themselves like a shield. He lays it out, this whole world runs on one cruel thing: people who can't afford help and those who sacrifice everything just to stay alive. Harris stands his ground, replaying every person he's helped and realizing their smiles hit harder for him than any status this world could ever offer. Sekel just bursts into laughter and tells Harris, "You've got noble goals too, for someone with your head on the line." As the group heads out, the Lord just watches them leave and whispers that he's praying the day never arrives when Harris regrets the choice he made. He blurts one last warning: those magical beasts in the forest are pure monsters, so don't you dare drop your guard. And the crew finally charges through the massive front gates of the estate, but Sekel is still the big topic, and the talk is nowhere near done as the stern knight snapped as he glanced back, fury boiling, while he grumbled that there's a hard limit to how far anyone should get mocking others. Grasm snaps at him to shut up and mind his mouth, because they're still standing on Woodbury land. The knight refuses to drop it. He presses Grasm again, demanding, "Did you see the look on his face? He's totally cooking up some dark scheme." Jurek jumps in, saying that no matter how the Lord moved, he never left even a single crack for an attack, and his guard stayed razor-sharp. Since he's from the Spadia bloodline, she's sure someone's hunting him every single day, so he can't afford to be caught off guard. Harris blurts out that his biggest worry is the Holy Order, especially if they're already hunting the demon grass flower. Then Grasm nods and snaps that Director Dolence never just walks away, and because the Renard Holy Order is the only medical lifeline in the entire kingdom, they wield serious power, winning over nobles and knights alike. Grasm admits that, yeah, he wants to believe knights don't get dragged into the spotlight just to line their own pockets, though deep down, he knows it's probably just him praying for a better world. He uncorks a secret mission on the spot, praying nobody shady is plotting against them from the shadows as Harris goes silent for a beat, and then Grasm snaps, standing here and overthinking won't get them a single real answer. Harris shrugs off the bad vibes, tells the group they're fine as long as they stay together, and then leans in. He's really counting on every single one of them. And he grips the map, stares at the horizon, and shouts, "Crew, now we're finally heading into the Widmark Great Forest." Back at the Reinhardt Holy Order, someone snaps completely, rage erupts, and they're screaming their lungs out. Dolence tears up his office, pacing in rage as he can't believe the Spadia family, and the knights suddenly turned his life into pure hell. His assistant snaps, "Our people are stalling for now," but he knows it's only a countdown, because the moment everything starts to slip, the whole thing will fall apart. Dolence takes a swig and grumbles that the knights are basically his bread and butter. Every non-stop injury they rack up keeps his shop alive, and he's not about to let Harris swoop in and steal his customers. One of his goons blurts out that he heard Harris, and the whole crew already started heading for the Great Widmark Forest, and which is a huge deal, because everybody knows that place is a full-on nightmare, breeding some of the deadliest magical beasts you can imagine. Dolence's face turns stone-cold creepy as he blurts that if the forest is truly that dangerous, then it really. Yeah, it's not like anyone can stop it. Some random losers stumble in and get turned into nothing but monster bait. The hooded girl smirks from the side, then tells them all they'll label it a tragic accident, like that'll somehow bury how terrifying the whole scene was. She grabs her resolve, heads out to check on their bait, and sees if it's still holding up, and then Dolence tells her he's putting everything on her, so she better keep her eyes glued to every second, right up to the final moment, before he bursts into a laugh at what he's thinking. He can't stop thinking about Harris, and he vows that once the monsters finally finish with him, he'll make sure to lay flowers at his grave. Harris and the crew march into the woods, and then a blinding light engulfs them. The Witch of the Amberliodes presses her face to a crackling crystal ball and spots Harris and his crew rolling straight into Woodbury territory, right as it all begins to unravel. Those woods are crawling with deadly monsters, and it looks like one of the nastiest is already stalking its next victim. She locks eyes on the group, realizes Harris's friends, and those young knights, can't possibly survive what's charging at them alone, so she clenches her staff and declares it's finally time to jump in and make her move. Macdi flashes a massive smirk because deep down she knows her moment to steal the spotlight is finally here. The witch orders her to fire up her magic and help Harris, and Macdi can't wait, practically beaming as she tells her master, "I've got it," before the top-tier mage straight up catapults out of the building, screaming that she's heading out. As she watches the girl disappear, the witch lets out a heavy sigh. Why can't she just use a door like a normal person for once? Then she waves it off fast because Now that everyone's locked in and charging toward the same goal, they'll smash the darkness choking the kingdom and forge the world Harris has been dreaming about. Back at the camp, Rome finally comes barreling in, swamped in an absurd mountain of luggage, then blurts out an apology to the others for keeping them waiting. Victoria swings her huge backpack onto the table and tells the group everything's packed, supplies, gathering gear, all ready to go. Then Harris grins and says, "Yeah, that definitely helps." As they finally settle in, Leisha whips her gaze to the dark tree line and calls Harris over, her face tight with worry, saying the forest feels wrong, especially since the moon hangs high and the woods throb with 1,000 strange voices, whispering from the darkness like they're hiding secrets just for us. Harris pauses mid-thought, and realization hits his face. Those voices aren't random at all. They're the warning bells of a brand new magic herb growing nearby. While they rest, Victoria scans the trees and admits straight up that a forest crawling with monsters makes her feel seriously uneasy. But Harris is already thinking 2 steps ahead, promising her that if they actually stumble on a brand new herb, they'll start brewing brand new potion types. Later, as the whole crew pushes through the brush, Victor can't stop replaying that earlier mess. He's still in shock at how everything went down at the Woodbury estate, and you can tell he's still boiling. He's dead furious that anyone would label Harris a weed pharmacist or act like he's just rolling in easy money, because that's straight-up disrespect. As they stride along, Victoria jumps in and points out that Lord Zeichel never really had the people on his side to begin with. Rome points out that having Lord Arnold as his brother-in-law has kept the ugliest corruption hidden so far, but the guild refuses to drop its guard, because something shady could be cooking behind the scenes at any moment. Jurek finally gets it, why they've got to stay razor alert, ready to spring into motion at any second, because the monsters hiding in the dark aren't just staring anymore, they're springing forward, jaws gaping, teeth bared. Jurek lunges straight into the pack and hurls her daggers, while Grazum swings his sword and carves the danger away, right up until. When the dust finally clears, Harris surveys all the beasts they brought down and flat out admits he's just relieved the crew is here to deal with how packed the forest is. Victor suddenly plays the tough guy, tells Harris to walk away and trust him, because he says the whole fight was basically effortless. But Grazum cuts him off on the spot, snaps at him to keep his guard up, and asks if he really forgot the lesson he learned just the other day. Victor starts panicking, begging him to shut up. Then Grazum accidentally blurts that Victor totally ended up naked last time, and right as Victoria loses it and screams for Harris to come over. Harris strides over like, "What's all the noise about?" And there, Leisha is bouncing around a fresh patch of plants. He drops to his knees, staring in shock, because it's a magic herb he's never even heard of in his entire life. Victoria doesn't slow down. She pushes forward and spots even more rare treasures tucked right in the brush nearby. Harris's bag is basically exploding, packed to the brim with every plant and herb they've collected so far. Harris stared at the mountain of herbs with a huge grin, practically beaming that he'd uncovered a ton of fresh magic types, while the haul turned out way bigger than he'd ever imagined. Victoria tilted her head at the towering trees and said, "Even magic herbs still crave sunlight, the same way regular plants do." Then she paused because here, everything was different. It just proves this part of the forest is soaked in mana, like the soil itself is packed to the brim. Grazum grins at Harris and says it's about time he found something actually useful. Then Harris nods and they keep moving, ditching the flowers for real answers. Harris says he's really praying they can track down those magic grass flowers just as easily as they snagged these other herbs, right when it makes it sound like things are about to get wild. Victoria pauses for a split second, locks onto the exact name of the flower he's hunting. She can't stop staring at that sacred temple, the same place that tried to purge demonic herbs, so why are they suddenly hunting these flowers too? Harris just leans in and starts to say maybe it's not what it looks like, maybe the truth is worse. Turns out their old boss has finally changed. He dropped the cruelty, and for once found real kindness in his heart. The entire crew just froze, utterly baffled by the idea, until Victoria waved it off and laughed, saying she was only messing with them. Jurek's face tightens as she tells him straight up, the corruption they're stuck fighting won't be something they can just fix fast, and they're in for a real battle. And Grazum backs her up, so Harris tells everyone to quit stalling and keep moving, explore as they go, while Victoria admits she's honestly thrilled to stay teamed up and dive even deeper with the group. Right then, Harris snaps to a halt and asks, "Is that magic weeds I smell again?" But Leisha just shakes her head no. She cranes her neck into the dense canopy, worry burning in her eyes, and blurts out that something about this place feels horribly wrong. As she's trying to figure out what's triggering that awful feeling, those creepy dark roots start twitching and writhing right at her feet. Victoria spots something rushing at them and lets out a full-on scream. Everyone hit the deck, right as a massive creature crashes down in front of them. Grassam and Jurek dive in and tear the wooden monster apart, shredding it midair like it's nothing. Grassam looms over the wreckage and it hits him. This is what he calls a treat, while Jurek just can't shake it, staring in disbelief at how a monster like that could possibly be lurking in this forest. The guys start to head out, but Jurek slams a hand up and yells, "Hold on," because he's got to say one more thing. Because she's scanning her surroundings and instantly knows Treants don't live here, something feels wrong, like the whole place is hiding a secret. Jurek points out the obvious. If that thing really is a treat, why is Victoria freaking out? I mean, they're standing in a forest, for crying out loud. But Jurek finally snaps and reveals the truth. Treants aren't creatures. They're monsters that only crawl out where the miasma is brutally strong. Grasm starts laying out what that means for them, but Victoria snaps, demanding to know exactly what he's talking about. Suddenly something slammed into the grass, hard, knocking the wind out of him and ripping a pained grunt from his mouth as he realizes the attacker is. He's a wraith when bam, 3 hooded skeletal spirits tear out of thin air. Grasm collapses to one knee from the hit, and Harris barrels over to check on him, while the girls instantly draw their weapons as Jurek barrels in at full speed, cutting off the spirits before they can wreck the group any further. Grasm grinds his teeth and snaps that, same as the Treants, these specters have absolutely no right to be lurking in these woods. Victoria watches them keep popping up one after another, and dread claws at her. What if these monsters aren't random at all, and someone's been summoning them to wipe out the whole party back to back as the undead spirits surge in from every direction? Jurek keeps her daggers up and snaps that sure, the ghost strikes are easy to spot, but nobody's got a way to end them for good, and Grasm clenches his teeth, admitting the truth. They're missing the final blow, and it's all. Since inspectors usually clamp down on certain zones, they always drag along mages or clerics who can cast magic and purify the mess. Jurek glances back, realizing they're stuck in a brutal spot, no help coming for her So Harris just locks eyes on the spirits, muttering purification and magic like a spell, wishing right this second that someone with those skills would show up. A bright voice chirps, "Were you calling for me?" while the entire crew stays trapped in the swirl of hooded skeletons. Then one of the wraiths gets obliterated by a monstrous wave of energy. Boom. A blinding flash erupts out of nowhere, and the whole party is left reeling, totally caught off guard, and Harris glances over and spots Macti right there, staff in hand. He knows her the instant he sees her, but she's definitely not just standing around because. She strikes a pose like a challenge, flashing a massive grin that screams, "I'm not done yet." After her first fire spell lands, she grins and promises to hit them with a few more moves, like a real greeting, and suddenly she cranks up into high gear. He unleashes Ice Storm, then slashes them with a brutal wind blade. Each hit tears straight through the skeletons, one after another, and then she ends it all with a brutal Earth Hammer spell, smashing what's left of the monsters into nothing. The explosion roars, then the dust drifts down, and everyone just stands there in shock. Harris and the others are completely frozen, staring at that insane power like they can't breathe. Macti snaps into an over-the-top pose and proudly declares she's the beautiful wizard who showed up just in time to save Harris, while the rest of the group just gapes at her like she's completely bizarre. She starts blushing and panics. Harris, say something, because she feels like a total loser just standing there, so he blurts out a fast, grateful thank you for saving their lives. Victoria thanks her too, then asks straight up if she knows Harris, and that single question makes Jurek's mind race about just how close those two really are. Harris just smirks and straight up tells them she's basically his future wife, and the entire crew just straight up breaks. Every single one of them erupts in screams, shock hitting them all at once. He bursts out laughing, clears it up, and says she's just a kid from one of his old patients, yet Mackie keeps pushing, swearing he's dead serious about it. Harris tells us his old patient was Amber, the witch of the mines, and she hadn't trained anyone in years until she caught sight of Macti's true potential. He admits he caught her training years ago, but not even he imagined she'd become this insanely good. Jurek told her she'd heard wild rumors about a witch taking an apprentice, but she never in a million years expected the girl right in front of her to be the one. The knights are practically trembling, and Victor bluntly says even the royal guard has to keep the witch under relentless watch. Victoria looks totally shaken as she tells you this woman's secret. Whenever she's bored, she grabs a pen and redraws the world maps from scratch. Macti can only give a shaky, nervous laugh about her master's awful reputation, because yeah, it's all true, and she's got nothing to defend. Harris demands why a big-shot witch like her is out here, and Macti only giggles before she drops the real reason. Her master said Harris is in the forest. She glances at the monsters and says the local beasts wouldn't stand a chance for them, normally. But when she yanks her hat down, she slams the group with one chilling warning: someone truly dangerous is finally on the move. Mac slams the brakes, scans the crowd, and demands, "Tell me you felt it too. Why do we have eyes on us right now, up in?" Up in the branches, a mysterious cat-eared girl flicks her tongue and admits, Macdy is every bit as sharp as she'd remembered. She tilts her chin down and smirks like, "No way, I never would have guessed Macdy would be the one to show up." While the rest of the crew scrambles to spot where those eyes are coming from, Macdy just faces the trees and shoots back at the hidden girl, because she's not as invisible as she thinks. Macdy jabs her hand at the trees and screams that she's found the Watcher, then blasts them with a furious hit that crashes into the ground as she and Harris refuse to move, standing firm while debris tears through the air. Perched high on the branch, a shadowy silhouette just scoffs as they try to flush her out. It's this girl with cat ears. She grins and admits she totally knew she couldn't fool Macdy after all. Victoria asks, "Do you two know each other?" And Macdy snaps back, "Yeah, this is the troublemaker," then explains how she warned everyone about a girl named Shamanina. Macdy fires back that Shamanina is nothing but a criminal, someone who's been summoning using forbidden magic, and it makes. Victoria and the knight finally got it. Every monster they'd fought earlier wasn't a random curse at all, it was her. Macdy flicked her gaze away for a second and finally admitted it. This whole disaster is basically a family scandal, but she snaps her staff right back at Shamanina and blasts the accusation. "You're only here to settle a grudge." Shamanina just shrugs and smirks like, "It's fine, I already found the flower I came for." Harris snaps his gaze up at Shamanin Na, and the shock hits him. She might actually be holding the rare demon grass flower. But Shamanina just holds it up, breezing in that the plants are exactly where the notebook promised, and Harris is absolutely stunned. When he sees she's actually gripping his father's long-lost research journal right there in her hand. He freezes in total shock, blurting out, "How does some criminal like her even know about Professor Gustav's work?" But Shamanana smirks and shuts him down, telling him he's talked enough, because her only job left now is to haul the whole group together. She lunges forward, swears she'll wipe them all out. Then suddenly, a blast of chaos erupts as everything changes. A gigantic wall of thick fog barrels in, swallowing the forest floor and sealing everyone inside. Harris snatches Leisha and yanks her into his arms, squinting through the blinding white mist as he roars, "I can't see a damn thing." But Jurek spots a flicker in the haze and erupts, shouting for everyone to drop, now. She whips her blade up at the last second, cutting off the monster before it can tear them to shreds. Jurek whips her blade through the air, carving space between them and the invisible threats, while Harrison and Lesha stay cramped together, huddled in fear. In the thick haze, the shaman bursts into laughter and tells the group, "I hope you enjoy being snacks for the monsters I've left right here with you." Harris starts to panic and blurts that Macdy should just use her wind magic to blow the fog away. But Macdy thrusts her hand forward, her magic sputtering to a stop. Then she tells him the mist isn't random at all. It's packed with a spell that smashes mana apart. She demonstrates it to him. Every spell she casts vanishes the moment it slips off her hand. She can't just wipe the whole area clean with a blast, and the moment it hits her, she realizes she's trapped in a brutally bad spot. Right out of the white, a monster with glowing eyes rockets toward them, and Jurek screams that the beasts somehow know they're the target. Victoria watches the battle unfold, stunned and wondering if these monsters have some secret animal sense that lets them see through the fog. But Macdy can't shake the feeling. Everything's far too exact, like every beast in the pack has its sights locked on one person in the group. Jurek snaps to it and roars at Harris to yank whatever he's hiding in his pocket out right now. Jurek whips his head toward Harris and demands to know if that thing in his pocket is some kind of pass, and Macdy snatches the round charm and erupts, yelling that she always knew he'd been hiding something just like this. As Harris fights to stay upright in the chaos, he blurts out, "Wait, what the heck is even happening?" So Macdy leans in for a closer look and realizes the charm isn't just cute, it's packed with attraction magic. Victoria realizes the monsters have stopped pressing so hard now that the charm is broken, and it makes. That's when Harris starts spiraling, convinced the Woodbury family might be secretly teaming up with the Sanctuary to snatch the magic grass and the notebook, because no matter how he thinks, he can't crack what they're really after. Macdy snaps in and tells him to save it for later, because right now, they've got to clear the mist before it traps them. She scrambles for another plan, because magic won't touch that fog, then suddenly. Lesha lifts the tiny owl, then leans in and tells Harris, Nash wants to deal with this on his own. And the little bird rockets into the sky, beating its wings with everything it's got to shove through the air. Harris tells everyone, Because the owl has wings, it can conjure a whip-crack gust of wind no matter how much, or how little magic hangs in the air. Even though Nash is pushing as hard as he can, Macty spots it. The mist is already crawling back in, and yeah, they're gonna need something far more powerful, like right. Macty can't afford to stall. He starts hunting for that last, perfect move that finally tips the scales. She calls out to Harris, demanding to know if he still has that magic herb medicine he once gave her master, and Harris shoots back, asking if she's talking about the stuff he gave Amber. Then he yanks the bottle out and tells her he's got it, yet he can't shake the fear that he has no idea what she's about to do. Macty tells him it'll work, then shouts for the win like, right now, because momentum is everything. Suddenly, Nash blasts out a brutal gust of air that shatters the dark mist and carves a clear path through the chaos. The moment the fog vanishes, the forest bursts open like a doorway, and everyone stands there, staring into clear air. MACD raises the empty bottle, cackling as he brags that Harris's special beauty oil works as fuel even better than anyone could have guessed. The whole crew just freezes, staring at her in disbelief, because she literally poured beauty oil like it was magic and somehow saved them. Victoria snaps the puzzle together, her mind racing. Could that fancy beauty oil be the real reason Amber keeps showing up at Harris's door for those house calls? Macty just bursts into laughter and parrots her master, asking if anything in the whole world could possibly matter more than a girl's skin. She even tells the story of how she got cursed, flowers sprouted from her ears just for asking about it, and that's exactly the kind of nonsense Victoria can't stand. Harris snaps everyone silent, stares past the mist, and tells the group, "You're about to see what's really waiting out there." As the smoke finally clears, a pack of colossal, terrifying monsters crashes onto the scene, slamming the road shut in front of them. Mact blurts out to the whole crew that this isn't some small-time threat, it's a whole other level, way beyond the weaklings they ran into before. Jurek wastes 0 seconds. He bolts straight into the fight, daring fate to see if she can survive these brand new threats. Even the quiet of night can't drown the truth. These monsters are coming, and they're going to be an absolute nightmare to take down. Behind the chaos, the hooded girl snaps a magic circle into place, calling up something far larger to crush them for good. From way back, Amber ducks her hat lower and blurts, "You absolute idiot," as the whole scene rips open in front of her. Macty slams the brakes on the chaos, barks at the group to pause, and demands they give her just 1 second of their time. Victor steps forward, squares up at the front, tells her he's got this, and then fires back, "So, do you actually have a plan to get us out of here?" Jurek keeps the blades flying, shouting that they'll get swallowed alive if they don't act right now. Macty starts glowing the moment she steps into that huge magic circle, and she tells them she's honestly impressed by how fast they caught on. She casually asks Harris if he knows about the different kinds of elemental magic, and suddenly he's left staring like, wait, why is she asking this now? Harris rattles off the 4 elements she's been juggling: fire, water, wind, and earth, trying to nail down what her point is. But Macty just grins and tells him he's right, then drops the bomb that those 4 are only half of what's really out there. The whole crew freezes, stares at her like she just broke the laws of reality, while Harris blurts her words back, totally baffled like, wait, what do you mean by half? As she charges up dark energy, she blurts out, "Sure, there are 4 monotypes, but there's another side too, anti-mono." Victoria stared as the dark power swelled in Maddie's hands, panic flashing on her face. This looks deadly. Maki erupts into laughter, totally pumped because she's finally about to use everything she learned in training with her master, and she just keeps going because she's about. She clenches her hands tight, pouring all that power into them, explaining that she's crashing mana and anti-mana together, right down to the second it all cuts off. To forge her ultimate trump card, and when the monsters clock what's coming, they freak out, realizing they're finished, as she lines the orb up and blasts it straight at them. Then boom, it erupts in a massive, blinding flash, swallowing the entire battlefield in 1 instant. And leaves nothing but an empty wasteland behind. Macati smirks like it's nothing, while Harris and Victoria just stand there, totally stunned by the total annihilation.